Chapter 1366. Let's first find the best time intent resources. If we can comprehend some time intent, our overall strength will greatly increase. Xin Wuheng proposed. Once an ancient god reached the ancient god level, comprehending time intent was extremely simple. However, if one didn't have talent in this aspect, it would still be difficult to advance. A low-level time intent wasn't very useful to an ancient god realm expert. However, not long after the crowd appeared, a powerful divine sense swept across the area. Everyone's expression changed simultaneously. Not good. It's a scout from the Silver Tiger Yao gods. Through this divine sense, they were able to track down the appearance of the owner of the divine sense. Although this person was only an ordinary rank 8 ancient god, if it sensed Zhao Feng's group, it would definitely notify the other Yao gods. Let's go. Everyone didn't say anything else and decided to escape first. They had tricked the two Yao god groups into attacking a half-step god lord. Given how much time had passed, the two sides definitely knew what had happened. Even if they didn't know what had happened, Zhao Feng's group was still a thief who had robbed the treasury. The Silver Tiger Yao gods would not let them go. Cling clang. The little thieving cat tossed its bronze coin and pointed in a direction. Xin Wuheng had some understanding of the little thieving cat's abilities, so he immediately led the group in the direction the little thieving cat had pointed. But in truth, the White Tiger Yao gods were only patrolling the area. They had suffered grievous casualties, and the souls of the Silver Tiger Yao gods were heavily injured. If an enemy attacked at this moment, they would be in danger. Within the giant god race treasury, those thieves. The Silver Tiger repeatedly sighed. His race had suffered grievous casualties, and he himself was heavily injured. It was more important to recover from his injuries as soon as possible. At this moment, several powerful auras began to approach the treasury. There were actually two half-step god lord auras among them. Humans. The Silver Tiger grimaced. 3 of these 6 figures were ancient god Jaelsia's group that they had been pursuing before. 6 powerful auras descended upon the giant god race treasury, causing all the Silver Tiger Yao gods to feel as if they were facing a powerful foe. Whoosh! All the Silver Tiger Yao immortals rushed out and looked at the 6 people in the sky, ready for battle. Humans, you have the advantage in numbers. I admit defeat. I'll let you have this treasury. The peak rank 9 Silver Tiger said unwillingly. He also believed that these people were coveting the treasury that he had occupied. Ancient God Jaelsi, you were reduced to such a miserable state by this weak peak rank 9. An old man in a dark green robe couldn't help but smile. Elder, back then, 2 Fey god groups joined forces. A rank 9 ancient god spoke up for ancient god Jaelsi. The elder in the dark azure robe was another half-step god lord of ancient soul hall, ancient god destruction flow. It was rumored that he and ancient god Jaelsi were close friends when they were young, but during one of the secret dimension explorations, they fought over treasures and became enemies. This is where I sensed the location of the ancient god seal. A pity that I was delayed by the 2 Yao god groups, allowing Xin Wuheng and the others to escape. Ancient god Jaelsi had a gloomy expression as he ignored ancient god destruction flow and spoke to Yuheng. Yuheng closed his eyes and pinched his fingers together. After a long time, he opened his deep eyes and didn't say a word. I clearly already have a few clues, but I still can't divine their location. Yuheng was alarmed and felt that there was something fishy about this matter. If his master were here, he would be able to sense that an even more profound power of the Way of Destiny was affecting Yuheng's deduction. Kill them all. Don't let go of any clues. Yuheng suddenly said, a smile on his handsome face. The ancient soul race was skilled in the soul Tao. After devouring the souls of their opponents, they could obtain all their memories and information. If you want the treasury, we'll give it to you, but if you insist on attacking my race, we won't let you have it easy. The Silver Tiger roared, its body exploding with a savage energy. The other silver tiger Yao gods also had indignant looks on their faces as they prepared to put their lives on the line. If they really did fight, they would definitely be the ones to suffer. But at this moment, they had no other choice but to use this threat to threaten the humans. Once the humans attacked, they would use suicidal attacks. The threat of the silver tiger Yao gods made the members of Ancient Soul Hall hesitate. If they weren't careful, the self-detonation of a peak rank 9 could kill even a half-step god lord, let alone ancient god JLC, who was already injured. A bunch of ants still want to resist. Yu Heng faintly smiled and stepped forward. What does he want to do? Ancient god JLC and ancient god Destruction Flow stared at Yu Heng in confusion. They listened to Yu Heng not because of Yu Heng's strength, but because of God Lord's stellar aspect. With Yu Heng's rank 9 ancient god strength, if he wasn't careful, he could be killed by a sudden attack from a silver tiger Yao god. However, in the next moment, Yu Heng's body began to emanate an ancient bloodline aura that could shake everything in the area. Bzzzzz. Streams of gold and silver energy revolved around Yu Heng's body, forming the image of an ancient god devil. In a flash, the blood of the silver tiger Yao gods felt an incredible pressure. It was as if Yu Heng was their ancestor. Almost all the Yao gods prostrated themselves on the ground, their bodies and souls trembling in fear. Only the 2 rank 9 Yao gods stared in shock and fear at Yu Heng. Not only that, but the Ancient Soul Hall members behind Yu Heng also felt an incredibly powerful ancient bloodline pressure. The half-step god lord of Ancient Soul Hall even sensed that his ancient soul race bloodline was unable to circulate, that his body could not transform into an ancient soul body. Just what sort of bloodline is this? Ancient god JLC trembled as he stared at Yu Heng in shock. Even when facing the giant god race, he had never felt this way. If this was the case, then Yu Heng's bloodline was definitely in the top 10 ancient races, and it gave off the feeling that it was even higher. The top 10 ancient races were all forbidden existences in the legends of the Desolate Era. Just which one of the top 10 bloodlines did Yu Heng possess? Kill! Yu Heng called out. The Ancient Soul Hall experts nodded in shock and charged forward. As for the Silver Tiger Yao gods, under the suppression of Yu Heng's supreme bloodline, they found it difficult to even think of resisting. Even if they did, their fighting power would be greatly reduced. In the end, all the Silver Tiger Yao gods were killed. The Ancient Soul Hall experts extracted the memories from their souls. There's a report that Xin Wu Heng's group appeared there a few days ago. A rank 9 ancient god shared the information he had obtained with the others. But this was all the information they had on Zhao Feng's group. Split up and continue searching. If there's anything, report to me. Yu Heng flatly said. This treasury. Ancient god JLC turned to the treasury. The Silver Tiger Yao gods had all been killed, and the treasury was empty. Such a precious treasure trove was simply abandoned here. It was truly a reckless waste of God's gifts. Okay, I'll give you 15 minutes. The moment Yu Heng finished speaking, the members of Ancient Soul Hall surged into the treasury. Only Yu Heng floated in the air, looking into the distance as if in deep thought. 15 minutes later, the members of Ancient Soul Hall emerged from the treasury. Yu Heng chose a few items that he needed from everyone else's harvest. The 2 half-step god lords had no complaints. After fleeing for some distance, Zhao Feng's group stopped. This cat is truly reliable. We should be heading toward the inner region of the Ancestral Legacy Treasury. Ancient God Resplendence praised the little thieving cat. There was no sun or moon in the Ancestral Legacy Treasury. The world was overcast, and divine sense and vision were hindered, making it impossible to determine one's direction. But as they advanced, they discovered that the plants growing around them were getting older and older. Even the rare plants that occasionally appeared were nearly 1 billion years old. Thus, Ancient God Resplendent speculated that they were heading toward the inner region. There's a building up ahead. Zhao Feng suddenly said. No one doubted this. After spending so much time together, they had a certain understanding of the abilities of Zhao Feng's eye bloodline. Could it be a Yao God faction that exists in this place? Ancient God Sundermount speculated. That's a building of the Heaven's Legacy race. Zhao Feng carefully examined it for a few moments before finally saying. Heaven's Legacy race? The others immediately called out in alarm. How could there be a building of the Heaven's Legacy race in this dimension? The ordinary members of the giant god race believed that the ancestral legacy treasury had been established by a god lord of the giant god race. Everyone, in truth, the ancient god seal was accidentally obtained by an ancestor of the giant god race. Later on, this dimension was opened, and after being passed down through the generations, it became known as the ancestral legacy treasury. Xin Wuheng told them what only the god lords of the giant god race knew. The ancient god seal was connected to the Heaven's Legacy race, so it made sense that this dimension was connected to the Heaven's Legacy race. It's rumored that the Heaven's Legacy race divided its main legacy into countless branches of various sizes, all over the fan universe. Could this dimension be one of the many branches of the Heaven's Legacy race's legacy? Ancient god Cheng Yun speculated. If this really was the case, then this legacy was definitely an extremely high-level branch legacy of the Heaven's Legacy race. I'm not sure about this either. I asked the ancestor of the giant god race about this, but not even he gave me a definite answer. Xin Wuhan shook his head. The group slowly approached the Heaven's Legacy race building. Firstly, the legacy of the Heaven's Legacy race was extremely attractive. Many of the skills of the Heaven's Legacy race could even change the fate of a faction. Secondly, everyone wanted to figure out the origin of this space. There was no doubt that this dimension was of a very high level. Even half-step god lords would be suppressed here. Moreover, this dimension was rather bizarre. All the Yao gods were extremely skilled in time intent, and the various resources were also primarily based on time intent. Soon, the huge steel building appeared in front of everyone. Meow. The little thieving cat suddenly began to gesture with Zhao Feng. There's danger. Zhao Feng's expression froze. Wasn't it the little thieving cat that led them here? Why did it say that there was danger after bringing them here? The little thieving cat immediately explained that it was only leading the group in this direction, not allowing them to enter the building. Zhao Feng was just preparing to tell the group what the little thieving cat meant. Suddenly, ancient god Cheng Yun called out in alarm, that's a moonlight sky bamboo. It said that it requires at least 2 billion years to grow, and it's a time cultivation resource. In a corner of the building was a bamboo shoot glimmering with white light. When the group looked at it, they felt like they were in a world of spacetime. It's rumored that the moonlight sky bamboo contains extremely pure time essence and is one of the most precious treasures for comprehending time intent. Consuming it can even increase one's ability to comprehend time intent. This legendary time intent cultivation resource was a treasure that all time intent cultivators dreamed of obtaining. In the outside world, there was simply no market for it. Several million years ago, news of this resource appearing somewhere in the ancient desolate realm of gods immediately attracted the attention of many time-intent cultivators of the surrounding zones. Even god lords personally took action. Chapter 1367. Moonlight Sky Bamboo. Everyone stared at the interior of the Heaven's Legacy race building. Even Zhao Feng was so moved that he forgot about the danger the little thieving cat spoke of. Normal time intent cultivation materials only contain the power and intent of time intent. However, the moonlight sky bamboo contained the essence of time. It was a rare treasure among time intent cultivation materials. After consuming this resource, one could slowly refine and comprehend time essence, allowing one to comprehend time intent with half the effort. Moreover, there was a rumor that consuming the moonlight sky bamboo could increase one's ability to comprehend time intent. It was a resource that time intent cultivators could only dream of. Although they were tempted by the appearance of such a valuable treasure, no one dared to act recklessly. Based on their previous experience, any place with a treasure was accompanied by a certain amount of danger. Perhaps the Heaven's Legacy race building where the Moonlight Sky Bamboo resided contained some unknown danger. The group cautiously approached and warily observed their surroundings. There's nothing strange about it. After careful observation, they didn't find anything suspicious and couldn't help but speed up. But when they were less than 100 feet from the Heaven's Legacy race building, they suddenly sensed an extremely profound time-intent pressure. What a powerful pressure! Ancient God Resplendence said in shock. It must be the time energy exuded by the Moonlight Sky Bamboo. Ancient God Cheng Yun excitedly said. The Moonlight Sky Bamboo was a treasure used to cultivate time intent, so it was of extremely high quality. Coupled with the fact that the resources here were even older, it wasn't strange for them to exude such profound time energy. Of course, there was also another reason: they were not skilled in time intent, or else this pressure would have been much weaker. After entering the Heaven's Legacy race building, they still didn't find anything strange, so they became even bolder and charged at the Moonlight Sky Bamboo. But the closer they got, the more the time intent pressure increased. It was like the entire space had become extremely thick and heavy, and their every movement was greatly hindered and slowed down. But the more this was the case, the more it proved that the Moonlight Sky Bamboo was of extremely high quality. Once they were only 1 foot from the Moonlight Sky Bamboo, every inch seemed to take an extremely long time. At this moment, Zhao Feng's left eye noticed something strange. Careful! Zhao Feng immediately warned, but his voice was extremely slow. Before he could finish speaking, 3 white lights appeared from within the Heaven's Legacy race building. Swoosh! In an instant, the 3 beams of light closed in on Zhao Feng and the others. Their speed shocked everyone. Due to the suppression of the profound of time, no one could react in time. They couldn't even use their defensive methods. Boom! A few white light beams as thick as an arm bombarded where everyone was at an extremely fast speed. Fortunately, the attack was not very powerful, and no one had received any fatal injuries. However, if they continued to stay near the Moonlight Sky Bamboo, they would not be able to fight back at all. The continuous damage would slowly accumulate, and it would be enough to cause serious injuries. The group left the vicinity of the Moonlight Sky Bamboo. What is that? Fortunately, their cultivation is not high, and their attacks are not strong. Otherwise, we would have been in trouble. As Zhao Feng's group left the vicinity of the Moonlight Sky Bamboo, the influence of the time intent weakened. Everyone stared at the 3 strange spiritual bodies floating above their heads. The 3 special demon immortals were about the size of a normal human. Their faces were savage, with triangular eyes and long ears. They looked like 3 little devils. They had no legs and just floated in the air. Human, die. The 3 Devil Yao gods glared at Zhao Feng's group and attacked. Truly reckless. So weak, yet you dare to attack us. Ancient God Cheng Yun couldn't help but sneer. They had almost obtained the Moonlight Sky Bamboo, but because of these 3 Devil Yao gods, they were forced to retreat. They had also experienced the strength of these 3 Devil Yao gods. Their attacks were only slightly stronger than an ordinary rank 8. The 3 Fiend Yao immortals were unmoved. Their killing intent toward the group was so solid that it seemed solid. Swoosh swoosh. A few white auroras shone down. Before Ancient God Cheng Yun could react, he was struck by the attacks. The others did react, but only Zhao Feng and Xian Wuhan managed to dodge the attacks. What a fast attack! Ancient God Resplendence said in shock. The enormous suppression of time intent prevented them from noticing this. Hurry and kill them, or else we won't be able to get the Moonlight Sky Bamboo. Ancient God Cheng Yun bellowed as he took the lead and thrust out a palm. Swoosh! Ancient God Cheng Yun cultivated wind intent, so this palm of his was extremely fast. However, the three Yao immortals shifted slightly to the left and easily dodged the attack. At the same time, the rest of the group began to unleash attacks, preparing to finish off the three Yao gods. Boom! Swoosh! Attacks filled the sky, flying back and forth. The three Yao gods weaved through the gaps between the attacks, dodging all the attacks without suffering the slightest injury. On the other hand, the rest of the group was slightly injured. The three devil Yao gods attacked with incredible speed. If they were completely focused, they would have been able to dodge. Damn! This situation made all of them rather sullen. But what could they do? The three devil Yao gods were moving too fast, almost as fast as instant movement. Instant movement required time, and these three Yao gods seemed to be born with this speed. Given how fast they were, it was probably impossible for them to engage in close combat. It's also very hard to lock onto them with eye bloodline techniques. Zhao Feng helplessly smiled. The three devil Yao gods had extremely sharp senses. The moment they sensed that Zhao Feng had locked onto them, they immediately began to move. Such speed, could it be the light race, one of the top 10 races of the 10,000 ancient races? Xian Wuheng mentally muttered. The light race, ranked 7th among the 10,000 ancient races, controlled time energy and possessed the fastest speed in the fan universe. But the light race was not a Yao god, and they had a completely different appearance from the devil Yao gods. Meanwhile, the three teams from Ancient Soul Hall had swept through the giant god race treasury before splitting up to search for Xian Wuheng's group. Don't let me catch you, or else I'll make you wish you were dead. Ancient God JLC had a gloomy expression. They were originally on the verge of obtaining the Ancient God seal and becoming the greatest contributors. But because of Xian Wuheng and Zhao Feng's scheme, they were surrounded by two Yao God groups, causing him to lose all face in front of Ancient God Destruction Flow. The moment he finished speaking, the crystal ball in Ancient God JLC's hand flashed with an azure light. Nearby, Ancient God JLC grimaced. The other two members of Ancient Soul Hall were also shocked. They didn't expect their luck to be so good that they actually found the location of their target again. Elder, aren't we going to inform Yuheng? The rank 9 ancient god asked. Yuheng had instructed them to inform him immediately if they discovered the whereabouts of the ancient god seal. Don't be hasty. Ancient god JLC hesitated for a few moments before speaking. As long as he successfully obtained the ancient god seal this time, he would be the greatest contributor. Another reason was that his sworn enemy, Ancient God Destruction Flow, just so happened to be on the same team as Yuheng, so he didn't want Ancient God Destruction Flow to benefit. If we can solve it, then all the credit will be ours. If it's too difficult, it won't be too late to inform them. Ancient God JLC added, and the other two agreed. Ancient God JLC's group quickly flew in the direction indicated by the crystal ball. A Heaven's Legacy race building. The rank 9 expert of Ancient Soul Hall exclaimed. Why would there be a Heaven's Legacy race building here? Another member of the team muttered in shock. In their understanding, the Ancestral Legacy Treasury was the private treasury of the giant god race, but they hadn't expected for it to contain a Heaven's Legacy race building. It seemed like this treasury had an unusual origin. They must be searching for some treasure in the Heaven's Legacy race building. The rank 9 ancient god was stunned. The Heaven's Legacy race had countless branches of inheritance in the fan universe, and there were both big and small opportunities hidden within them. A high-level dimension like the Ancestral Legacy Treasury would definitely contain extraordinary Heaven's Legacy race legacies. Humph, enemies are bound to meet. Ancient God JLC savagely laughed as he led the group forward. Before they even got close to the Heaven's Legacy race building, they sensed the astonishing ripples of divine power and the sounds of battle, causing them to slightly slow down. Within the Heaven's Legacy race building, the three extremely fast Devil Yao gods were making everyone extremely annoyed. Use large-scale attacks to completely seal off their range of dodging. Zhao Feng suggested. Everyone immediately agreed to this suggestion. Although the three Fiend Yao immortals were fast, the narrow space here limited their strengths. Water Lightning Illusion World. Zhao Feng activated his left eye, unleashing a net of lightning. This lightning energy rapidly expanded, absorbing the surrounding water intent and transforming into a massive net of water lightning that sealed off the three Devil Yao gods' paths of retreat. On the other side, the giant god race team unleashed powerful large-scale attacks. The Devil Yao gods were only fast, but their defenses were rather average. They were struck by the combined attacks and were immediately slain. It's finally over. Ancient god Qingyun exhaled and turned to the Moonlight Sky Bamboo. But at this moment, three powerful auras appeared outside the Heaven's Legacy race building. The Moonlight Sky Bamboo is ours, and your lives are also ours. Ancient god JLC loudly laughed. They had failed last time, but now, they had discovered Zhao Feng's group again. Besides that, they had also discovered the Moonlight Sky Bamboo, a cultivation treasure for time intent. This was a double harvest. There's someone else. Ancient god Resplendence grimaced. The others also grimaced. They were inside the building, so their senses were hindered. As a result, they were unable to sense what was happening outside. There, from Ancient Soul Hall. Ancient god Sundermount was flabbergasted. Wasn't the Ancestral Legacy treasury only accessible through the Ancient God Seal? Why would the people of Ancient Soul Hall come here? The people of Ancient Soul Hall actually came here. Xin Wuheng and Zhao Feng's expressions shook and were filled with disbelief. How could this be? Ancient god Qingyun's body trembled in despair. Just when they were about to obtain the Moonlight Sky Bamboo, the three Devil Yao gods had suddenly caused trouble. Now that they had dealt with them, they were faced with an even greater danger. Although there were only three enemies, they were not people they could fight against. Just the half-step God Lord alone was enough to control the situation. Chapter 1368. The giant god race had the advantage in numbers, but the power of Ancient Soul Hall's half-step god lords could easily crush anyone below rank 9. The only person who could stop Ancient God JLC for a moment was Xin Wuheng. But that was only if Xin Wuheng activated his bloodline and used all his techniques. How could this be? How did they get here? Is the giant god race destined to never rise again? Ancient God Resplendence had a look of despair on her face. She originally believed that by coming here, she would be cut off from the ancient desolate realm of gods. As long as she gathered enough resources and returned to the race, she could rest and gradually develop until she surpassed Ancient Soul Hall. She hadn't expected that Ancient Soul Hall's pursuit would extend all the way to the Ancestral Legacy treasury. These three members of Ancient Soul Hall alone were not people they could fight against. No one knew if there were other Ancient Soul Hall experts nearby. How did you get in here? Xin Wuheng's expression darkened as he asked. This was the biggest doubt in his heart. There's no need for people about to die to know so much. Ancient God JLC faintly smiled. In truth, he only knew that they had used God Lord Stellar Aspect's teleportation array to get here. God Lord Stellar Aspect and Yuheng had mysterious backgrounds. Probably only the God Lord experts of Ancient Soul Hall knew the specifics. Ancient God JLC secretly messaged the other two Ancient Gods, attack Xin Wuheng. Seizing the Ancient God Seal is the most important thing. In contrast to the despair of the giant God race members, Zhao Feng was calmly examining the trio. Could it be that the humans that appeared near the two Yao God groups were also these people? Zhao Feng carefully thought back to what had happened. Back then, the two peak rank 9 Yao gods had discovered other humans and worked together to deal with them. Only a half-step God Lord could make these two Yao God groups treat them with such importance and work together to deal with them. Bzzzzz. Zhao Feng's left eye slowly began to turn as he began to carefully examine Ancient God JLC. Gradually, Zhao Feng was able to see the condition of ancient god Jiaoxia's body and soul. It really was them. Zhao Feng faintly smiled. The injuries on the trio had not completely healed. Ancient god Jiaoxia in particular had consumed too much of his bloodline, and his soul origin was also rather weak. Xian Wuheng, listen to me, Zhao Feng transmitted his voice to Xian Wuheng without changing his expression. Ancient god Jiaoxia and the other two had intentionally concealed their injuries so that the members of the giant god race would find it difficult to see. Thus, they believed that they had no chance of victory and found it difficult to even muster the will to fight. Give me your life. Ancient god Jiaoxia bellowed, and with a wave of his hand, a ball of black energy flew out. In this black light was a savage crocodile. It was none other than ancient god Jiaoxia's soul beast. At the same time, ancient god Jiaoxia's body swayed as he joined the soul beast in attacking ancient god Resplendence. On the other side, the two ancient gods of ancient soul hall also unleashed their soul beast attacks. Alright, let's pretend to attack the others, then surround Xian Wuheng and kill him. Ancient god Jiaoxia mentally chuckled. They were all aware of Xian Wuheng's strength. If he were to unleash his full strength, it would be extremely terrifying. The only person present who could contend against ancient god Jiaoxia was Xian Wuheng. As long as he was killed, there was nothing to worry about. If ancient god Jiaoxia was in his peak condition, he could just attack Xian Wuheng. Alas, the injuries to his soul were not so easy to heal, so this strategy made it easier to succeed. But the moment the ancient soul hall experts unleashed their attacks, Xian Wuheng charged forward. Boom! A heaven-shaking ancient bloodline energy surged toward the ancient soul hall trio. As he activated his giant god race bloodline, Xian Wuheng waved his hands and used a secret defensive art. Immediately, a five-colored mirror appeared between his palms. How could this be? Ancient god Jiaoxia grimaced in disbelief. Xian Wuheng seemed to have planned this all along. He exploded with all his strength and charged forward with incredible speed. The defensive art he used weakened the attacks of the ancient soul hall trio. Boom! As Xian Wuheng collided with the ancient soul hall trio, his body suddenly expanded. A giant more than 100,000 feet tall appeared outside the Heaven's Legacy race building, causing the earth to tremble. Clang clang. The ancient soul hall trio were sent flying for some distance before finally managing to steady themselves. Other than ancient god Jiaoxia, the other two ancient soul hall members alternated between red and white, blood trickling down the corner of their lips. Ancient soul hall was skilled in the soul Tao, and the giant god race possessed extremely powerful bodies. Moreover, Xian Wuheng had an extremely thick bloodline. Thus, in a direct clash of strength, the three ancient soul hall members were forced back by Xian Wuheng. How could this be? On the surface, we have the advantage. They should be on the defensive. The peak rank 8 ancient god was stunned. Moreover, the other members of the giant god race truly did have gloomy expressions, their hearts filled with fear and no desire to fight. They saw our injuries. Ancient god Jiaoxia's expression darkened. After sending the ancient soul hall trio flying, Xian Wuheng did not pause. He continued to charge forward and thrust out a finger. This finger was as massive as a mountain. Xian Wuheng gathered all his strength and fused it with 5 elements intent and thrust it forward. Humph, a trifling rank 9 ancient god. Even if this old man is injured, killing you is still easy. Ancient god Jiaoxia was instantly enraged. Their plan had completely failed, and they had been caught off guard by Xian Wuheng. This infuriated him. But the moment he finished speaking, ancient god Jiaoxia sensed something, and his eyes froze. Xian Wuheng, who was charging over, tilted his head slightly. Behind him, a dreamy silver eye appeared in front of the ancient soul hall trio. That's a secret art similar to the space transference eye. The rank 9 ancient god of ancient Soul Hall called out in alarm. Xin Wuheng's massive body and his intimidating bloodline energy concealed everything, so they failed to sense the space transference eye in the sky. Tribulation lightning eye flame. In the eye of heaven state, Zhao Feng unleashed his tribulation lightning eye bloodline technique. His target was only one, ancient god JLC. Zhao Feng had just become a rank 8 ancient god and could fight against a rank 9 ancient god. If he wanted to kill a rank 9, he would need to use his origin energy and some of his trump cards. Ancient god JLC was only a half-step godlord, so there was an enormous gap between him and a rank 9 ancient god. In the face of such an opponent, Zhao Feng did not dare to be careless and fought at his peak state. Just a moment ago, he had undone the seal on his origin energy. In addition, while in the eye of heaven state, the power of Zhao Feng's eye bloodline techniques would receive an enormous boost. Crack. A twisted lightning flame exploded on ancient god JLC's soul body. Countless bolts of lightning wreaked havoc, the destructive lightning energy causing the two ancient gods on the side to tremble in fear. If they were to face this eye bloodline technique, even if they didn't die, they would be heavily injured. Ancient god JLC's thoughts were momentarily interrupted by the tribulation lightning eye flame. At this moment, Xin Wuheng's attack arrived. Oh no! The other two ancient gods grimaced and used their secret defensive arts to protect ancient god JLC. Boom! Bang! Xin Wuheng thrust out a finger, shattering the divine power barrier in front of ancient god JLC. Ancient god JLC was also thrown several thousand li away. Alas, by the time Xin Wuheng struck ancient god JLC, he had already partially recovered and was circulating divine power to block the majority of the damage. After doing all this, Zhao Feng ignored ancient god JLC and looked behind him. Still not done. Zhao Feng's brow furrowed. While he and Xin Wuheng were moving out, he had ancient god Resplendence group take away the moonlight sky bamboo as quickly as possible, but they still hadn't succeeded. Meow. The little thieving cat grinned, indicating that it was still up to him. That-ish. In a flash of silver-gray light, the little thieving cat immediately approached the moonlight sky bamboo. It's this cat. It's not suppressed by this dimension. Ancient god Resplendence rejoiced. The little thieving cat truly was not suppressed by this dimension, but the time energy exuded by the moonlight sky bamboo was extremely powerful, so the little thieving cat was still somewhat affected. However, it still quickly approached the moonlight sky bamboo and plucked it with a swipe of its paw. At this moment, an astonishing energy exploded from the horizon. I'll tear all of you to pieces. Ancient god JLC roared as he transformed into a black wave that frenziedly charged forward. Hide inside. Zhao Feng suddenly said. The group began to make their way into the Heaven's Legacy race building. It was only because they had caught ancient god JLC off guard that they managed to catch him off guard, but ancient god JLC had not been very injured. In addition, the ancient soul race was skilled in speed, and as a half-step godlord, ancient god JLC was undoubtedly the fastest person present. If they tried to flee, they would definitely be caught. Thus, hiding inside the Heaven's Legacy race building was the better choice. Follow me. Zhao Feng straightforwardly said. When making this decision, he had already roughly inspected the building and realized that it was extremely large. On the way, he saw many places growing time-type cultivation resources, but most of them were not as valuable as a time treasure like the moonlight sky bamboo. Their lives were more important, so they didn't have the time to pluck them. Moreover, once they got close to these resources, they would be affected by time intent. Ancient god JLC would probably arrive before they succeeded. Besides these resources, there were also the Devil Yao gods. When the Devil Yao gods saw Zhao Feng's group, they immediately put on savage and furious expressions. Leave it to me. Xin Wuheng went to the back of the group and slightly activated his bloodline. Circulating divine power, he unleashed 5 colored rings of light to block the attacks of the Devil Yao gods. Fortunately, these Devil Yao gods weren't very strong, so Xian Wuheng alone was enough to deal with them. Meow. The little thieving cat suddenly left Zhao Feng's shoulder and jumped to the side. What does that cat want to do? Ancient God Qing Yun immediately asked. The little thieving cat was holding the moonlight sky bamboo. Nothing could be allowed to happen to it. The little thieving cat's body split into 4, each of them jumping to a nearby building, its hands surrounded by silver-gray light as it began to feel around. The gloomy space immediately began to flash with faint light, exuding an inexplicable chill. Swish! 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 The 3 members of Ancient Soul Hall quickly caught up. At this moment, something happened. Kaboom! Many holes appeared on the walls on both sides of the corridor, spewing out black flames that formed a massive net of fire. Careful! Ancient God JLC grimaced, but it was too late. Aya! 2 nearby Devil Yao gods were engulfed by the black flames and instantly turned to ash. Caught off guard, the 3 were also engulfed by the black flame net. Their bodies were instantly set aflame, and even their souls were somewhat scorched. Damn! It's a trap of the Heaven's Legacy race. Furious shouts could be heard as the 3 were forced to stop in order to block the terrifying black flames. Chapter 1369. Damn! It's a trap set up by the Heaven's Legacy race. Furious shouts could be heard as the trio was forced to stop in order to block the terrifying black flames. What sort of flame is this? The peak rank 8 Ancient God of Ancient Soul Hall asked in alarm. These black flames could absorb the energy in their bodies to increase the intensity of the flames. Moreover, these flames could even affect the soul. As the weakest member of the Ancient Soul Hall trio, he was tormented the most. Boom! On the other side, Ancient God JLC unleashed powerful water intent divine power to quickly extinguish the black flames. After doing all this, he immediately went to help the other 2 members resolve the crisis. That cat actually has this kind of ability? Ancient God JLC was bewildered. Originally, this building had been around for too long, so all the mechanisms and traps within it had stopped working. However, the little thieving cat's actions just now had succeeded in activating some of the traps. If they wanted to continue down, they would definitely encounter many obstacles. Humans, die. At this moment, several furious roars could be heard. Whoosh! Several rays of white light shot toward the Ancient Soul Hall trio. They transformed into little demons that flickered with white light. As they waved their claws, they fired off rays of white light. Just what are these? The peak rank 8 Ancient Soul Hall god frowned. This was the first time they had ever seen a Yao god of this type, and since they were attacking with such reckless abandon, they had clearly lost their minds or had been demonized. Low-level and foolish creatures. Ancient God Jaelsia's expression chilled as he waved his hand, unleashing a wave of black water. This black wave covered an enormous area, and it surged through the world. The Devil Yao gods were only fast, but their cultivations were rather low. They could not possibly block the attacks of a half-step god lord. Ah! Screams rang out in the air, and in a flash, all the Devil Yao gods had been killed. What do we do, Elder? The rank 9 Ancient God of Ancient Soul Hall asked. If they continued down, they would definitely run into many obstacles. At this moment, he wanted to notify Yu Heng. God Lord Stellar Aspect clearly had some understanding of the Heaven's Legacy race's legacy arts. As his disciple, Yu Heng should be able to dispel the traps here. They're already trapped here, so there's no need for us to rush. We can slowly dispel them until we kill them and complete the mission. Ancient God JLC directly said. If he were to contact Yu Heng and the others, wouldn't he be telling them that he had once again encountered Xian Wuheng's group and was caught off guard by their sudden attack? He was a half-step god lord, but he had been pushed back by Xian Wuheng and a rank 8 ancient god. This was the greatest humiliation of his life. If his sworn enemy, ancient god Destruction Flow, learned of this, he would definitely use this matter to ridicule him for millions of years. However, as long as he killed Xian Wuheng and the others and took back the ancient god seal, all of this would disappear. Great, we also need some time to recover from our injuries. Ancient god JLC continued. Elder is right. At that time, they won't be able to escape even if they have wings. The other rank 9 ancient god smiled. Everyone had their own selfish motives, and they were no exception. They wanted to take all the credit. The ancient Soul Hall trio had been stopped by the Heaven's Legacy race's trap. The members of the giant god race had also noticed this. Tianji secret art. Xian Wuheng, who was at the back of the group, had the clearest view. Originally, because this place had been here for too long, all the installations, including the traps, had stopped operating. But the little thieving cat's actions just now had once more activated a trap array. One had to realize that even Xian Wuheng, skilled in Tianji secret arts, was unable to activate the traps of the Heaven's Legacy race in such a short amount of time. From this, one could see that the little thieving cat's abilities were rather abnormal. This cat, to think that it would be so formidable. Ancient god Qing Yun's eyes froze. Ancient god Sundermount had a slightly better expression. He had even seen the little thieving cat use a bloodline ability of the ancient soul race to defeat a soul beast of the ancient soul race. The group quickly fled into the depths of the building. What should we do now? Ancient god Resplendence asked. In the situation just now, even if they had fled, the ancient Soul Hall trio would have instantly caught up. Although they were currently hiding in this place and weren't in any danger, they were essentially trapped here. But they were essentially trapped here. The people of ancient Soul Hall would come sooner or later. What would they do then? At least we're still alive. We still have time to think of a countermeasure and a chance of survival. Xian Wuheng indifferently said. Stop chatting. Let's first take care of the nearby Yao gods. Zhao Feng scanned the area and then said. Then, they worked together and destroyed all the devils and Yao immortals in the small dimension. Take out the moonlight sky bamboo and distribute it. Ancient god Qing Yun looked at the little thieving cat on Zhao Feng's shoulder. Although they had previously come to an agreement that they could not interfere with Zhao Feng's opportunity, they were not allowed to interfere. But the giant god race had put in a lot of effort to obtain the moonlight sky bamboo, and this treasure was so precious. Meow, meow. The little thieving cat reluctantly took out the moonlight sky bamboo. This moonlight sky bamboo has 3 segments. I'll take one of them. After speaking, Zhao Feng turned to the giant god race. Alright, let's split it like that. Ancient god Qing Yun and the others froze for a few moments before agreeing. If the distribution was based on effort, Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng had obstructed ancient god JLC and the little thieving cat had personally plucked the moonlight sky bamboo, Zhao Feng should have gotten 2 sections. Now that Zhao Feng only wanted one of them, they were naturally willing. Little did they know that Zhao Feng had the god eye duplication ability and could duplicate resources. But the quality of the moonlight sky bamboo was too high. Duplicating an entire stalk would consume too much energy and might even result in failure. Thus, he only needed 1 section to greatly increase the chances of success. After dividing up the moonlight sky bamboo, the group turned their eyes to the resources growing in this small dimension. Whoosh! 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 The group began to move. Although this dimension was small, it was deep underground and had many resources of extremely high quality. White moon grass. Not only is it a time-intent cultivation resource, it can also nourish the soul and purify the mind. Ancient god Qing Yun cried out in alarm as he moved aside a boulder and plucked a crescent-shaped herb. The main resources here were related to time intent, but there was no lack of other resources as well. The members of the giant god race excitedly searched the area, picking up all the rare treasures they could find. Why isn't that kid moving? Ancient god Qingyun glanced at Zhao Feng out of the corner of his eye, but he noticed that Zhao Feng was standing motionless. After some thought, ancient god Qingyun believed that perhaps because the giant god race had too many people, Zhao Feng felt that he had no hope of obtaining any precious resources, so he didn't move. Suddenly, Zhao Feng moved. He went to a corner of a ruined wall and slashed out a palm, carving out a hole in the rubble. A jade-green light instantly shot out. Swish! With a wave of his hand, Zhao Feng took out a pebble the size of a palm. This pebble flowed with jade-green light and exuded a faint chill. Jade Nether Spirit Essence Stone. Ancient god Qingyun called out in alarm at the sight of this jade stone. To think that it's this strange stone. This is a unique variant of divine stone essence. It contains vast amounts of heaven and earth essence that can temporarily strengthen one's divine stage and strengthen one's ancient god divine power. Ancient god Sundermount also looked over, and he couldn't help but be surprised. Although they had obtained many things, not many of them could compare in value to the Jade Nether Spirit Essence Stone. After putting the stone away in his interspatial dimension, Zhao Feng once more looked around. For time intent, he had the Moonlight Sky Bamboo, so he didn't need to fight over other time intent cultivation resources unless they were of a higher quality than the Moonlight Sky Bamboo. For this reason, Zhao Feng didn't rush into action. Instead, he began to observe and search for resources that suited him or that he didn't have. This Jade Nether Spirit Essence Stone was one of them. It had the effect of cleansing the body, increasing one's cultivation, and condensing divine power. A few moments later, Zhao Feng moved out once more. He went behind a machine and punched. Boom! Bang! The machine was blasted away by Zhao Feng, revealing two small fruits growing in the corner. Void Spirit Thousand Leaves Fruit. Zhao Feng rejoiced. Although the Void Spirit Thousand Leaves Fruit was also a time intent resource, it also contained space intent, making it a space-time cultivation resource of rather high quality. Although the value of this precious material wasn't as high as the Jade Nether Spirit Essence Stone, space intent was a power that everyone would try to cultivate, and this precious material contained the power of space intent. Naturally, it was much more valuable than time-type precious materials of the same rank. Damn! This kid only knows how to pick the good stuff. Ancient god Qingyun naturally understood what Zhao Feng was thinking. He didn't want much, only quality. On the other end, the little thieving cat's harvest was also extremely abundant. It didn't take long for the group to scour the entire dimension. Although the giant god race had more people and harvested more resources, in terms of value, it wasn't necessarily as valuable as what Zhao Feng and the little thieving cat had obtained. Ancient God Resplendence and Ancient God Qingyun even ran over to trade for the Void Spirit Thousand Leaves Fruit and Jade Nether Spirit Essence Stone that Zhao Feng had just obtained. However, Zhao Feng didn't need what they offered, so he refused. After plundering the resources, the group began to think about other matters. There's still some time before the ancient Soul Hall trio arrives. If we can all get a little stronger in this time, we might be able to fight back. After saying this, Xin Wuheng seated himself cross-legged on the ground. Lord Wuheng, you're right. Ancient God Sundermount also sat down cross-legged, took out some of the resources he had gathered, and began to cultivate. In truth, this was also what Zhao Feng was thinking. Swish! He entered the space-time robe and began to cultivate. As for the little thieving cat, it followed Zhao Feng's orders and went to complete the traps around this dimension so that they could delay the ancient Soul Hall trio for a little longer. On the other end, Ancient God Resplendence began to cultivate. Only Ancient God Qingyun seemed to be wandering around in search of resources. After leaving the room, Ancient God Qingyun went to a massive array of instruments. These instruments had stopped operating long ago, and they were still covered in a thick layer of dust and grime. Ancient god Qingyun walked up to a cylindrical crystal tube. This crystal tube contained many precious resources, but most of them had withered. Suddenly, a few weak rays of light emerged from the bottom of these resources. The crystal tube and the concealment of the resources made it impossible to tell what was going on. Could there be an abnormally precious treasure in here? Ancient god Qingyun suddenly thought of something. Chapter 1370. After entering the spacetime robe, Zhao Feng first attempted to duplicate the moonlight sky bamboo. Of course, if not for the fact that he had a lot of time in the spacetime robe, Zhao Feng really wouldn't have dared to duplicate such a treasure at this critical juncture. This moonlight sky bamboo was extremely precious, and its quality far surpassed Zhao Feng's cultivation. Duplicating it was extremely difficult. Moreover, using God-Eye duplication consumed the origin energy in the dreamy silver ball, and Zhao Feng's eye intent and soul were also rather exhausted. This also meant that Zhao Feng would be in a weakened state after duplicating the item. After duplicating the moonlight sky bamboo, Zhao Feng immediately took out several other time intent cultivation resources, such as the most ordinary time origin flower, and others. These resources were of rather low quality compared to the other time cultivation resources that had appeared in this place. For this reason, Zhao Feng had no plans to duplicate them and just use them. Less than 3 days later, when Zhao Feng used up his fourth time cultivation resource, his lips curled into a smile and he opened his eyes. My time intent has finally reached level 5. Previously, Zhao Feng's time intent had already reached the peak of level 4. Now that he was in this special dimension and had these extremely old time intent resources, he was able to easily break through. To an ancient god, level 5 time intent was completely useless. But now that Zhao Feng's time intent had reached level 5, he could use it with the spacetime robe to adjust the time within it. Bzzz. Time intent began to circulate, slowly fusing into the spacetime robe dimension. Suddenly, the stars in the sky began to twinkle, and their positions began to subtly shift. At the same time, a profound time intent energy poured down, filling the entire dimension. Anyone with even a little understanding of time intent would realize that the flow of time in this dimension had changed. Master's time intent has reached level 5. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon was taken aback. It knew that Zhao Feng cultivated 10 some kinds of intent. The fact that Zhao Feng was able to cultivate the profound meaning of time to such an extent was truly rare. 20 days in the spacetime robe is only 1 day in the outside world. Zhao Feng sensed it and deduced the approximate data. You guys should also learn some time power Upanishad. Zhao Feng gave the remaining cultivation resources to the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon and Zhao Wang. Perhaps he would need their help in the future. If he didn't understand the profound of time at all, he would be at a great disadvantage in this space. Thank you, Master. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon said respectfully. He had long since noticed that the materials Zhao Feng was using were extraordinary. Now that he looked closely, he discovered that these precious materials were extremely old, and some of them were even over 1 billion years old. After doing all this, Zhao Feng returned to his original spot and took out the Jade Nether Spirit Essence Stone. Precious materials that could raise one's cultivation would have their effects greatly reduced after being consumed a second time. Now that Zhao Feng was in danger and urgently needed to increase his strength, he did not duplicate it, but used it directly. Using a technique, Zhao Feng summoned the strange energy within the Jade Nether Spirit Essence Stone. This energy was extremely pure and exuded a faint chill. After circulating through his body, it fused into his divine stages. As time passed, Zhao Feng's energy continued to rise. In the outside world, Xian Wuheng and the others were also cultivating in a special dimension. At a certain moment, Xian Wuheng's body suddenly began to exude a powerful ancient bloodline energy, but it quickly faded away. At first, everyone was disturbed by this energy, but they soon got used to it. Xian Wuheng's body contained the power of a god lord. In this dangerous moment, his body's potential was stimulated, and his strength was rapidly rising. Outside this dimension, the little thieving cat was searching for cultivation resources while activating the mechanisms of the array. On the other side, the ancient Soul Hall members were unhurriedly unraveling the mechanisms of the array. Their method of unraveling was naturally destruction. After all, they were not skilled in arrays and mechanisms. Rather than racking their brains to think of ways to unravel them, they might as well just destroy them. If this building was being operated normally, the mechanisms and traps within a certain range would all be connected to each other. Using this method to unravel the mechanisms would definitely result in being attacked by the other mechanisms. But at this moment, these mechanisms and traps had only been activated by the little thieving cat in a hurry and were not connected to the other mechanisms in the building. Boom! Bang! Crash! The ancient Soul Hall trio succeeded in destroying one of the mechanisms and pushed forward. The moment they entered, humans die. A few Devil Yao gods disregarded their own lives and charged forward. Humph, truly fools. The ancient Soul Hall trio had long ago gotten used to this, and they used a few large-scale attacks to kill all of them. As they advanced, they would also plunder some precious resources. White moon grass, spirit essence jade fruit. The peak rank 8 ancient god of ancient Soul Hall rejoiced as he flew into a nearby room. This is celestial soul purifying spirit dew. Ancient god Jalesia's eyes flashed as he took out 2 gloomy and translucent drops of dew from a depression in a lush area of spirit grass. Celestial soul purifying spirit dew can purify the soul, repair soul injuries, and instantly replenish one's soul energy. Congratulations, Elder, on obtaining this soul dew. The other 2 ancient Soul Hall members also coveted this dew, but they were extremely tactful and did not mention how to split it. This dew is mine. I don't want any of the other resources around here. Ancient God JLC excitedly laughed. With this dew, Elder's soul injuries will be healed in less than a day, and your strength in the Soul Tao will even go up another level. When the time comes, Xian Wuheng's group will be doomed. The rank 9 ancient god of ancient Soul Hall immediately flattered. If their team completed this mission alone, they would obtain far more benefits than these 2 drops of celestial soul purifying spirit dew. All of you, hurry up. Ancient God JLC immediately said. With the celestial soul purifying spirit dew, his injuries would be healed in less than a day, and his soul intent would also be strengthened. Since this was the case, they couldn't give Xian Wuheng's group any more time. They had to kill as quickly as possible. One day later, ancient god Jalesia's injuries were healed, and his soul energy was even stronger. The 3 of them worked together and rapidly advanced into the depths of the building. Within the spacetime robe, Zhao Feng had been cultivating for more than 100 days. His energy was much stronger than before, and his body was constantly exuding astonishing ripples of divine power. Bzzzzz. The jade nether spirit essence stone in Zhao Feng's hand was dim and lusterless, like an ordinary green pebble. At a certain moment, Zhao Feng increased the absorption rate, causing the jade nether spirit essence stone to rapidly dim. Crack! The jade nether spirit essence stone in his hand shattered. A little while later, Zhao Feng's energy began to recede. Not bad. My cultivation is already approaching the peak of rank 8. Zhao Feng rejoiced. One had to realize that 3 years ago, he had just become a rank 8 ancient god. This sort of cultivation speed was unmatched by anyone other than those who had recultivated. Moreover, on the 30th day of his seclusion, the Moonlight Sky Bamboo segment was successfully duplicated. By now, he had recovered 70 to 80% of his soul and eye bloodline energy. Just when Zhao Feng was preparing to take out the Moonlight Sky Bamboo and absorb time essence, a powerful ripple of time intent suddenly appeared in the outside world. What's this? Ancient God Cheng Yun's voice rang out. Zhao Feng immediately left the spacetime robe and focused his gaze. In a room on the edge of this dimension, ancient god Qing Yun stood in a daze in front of a massive machine. Atop this machine was a row of crystal tubes, one of which was already shattered. In the center of this shattered tube was a dazzling white light that rippled with time intent. Oh no! With his left eye's see-through ability, Zhao Feng could see things that normal people couldn't. He hadn't been carefully inspecting this machine before, but now that he could see through it, he realized that this row of crystal tubes was connected to a separate machine even deeper inside. Bzzzzz. The ripples of intent within the shattered tube were getting stronger and stronger. A ball of white light shot out, heading straight for the closest ancient god Qing Yun. What? Ancient god Qing Yun called out in alarm. He wanted to dodge, but the ball of white light was too fast and entered his body. A thought body. Zhao Feng was alarmed. What's going on? At this moment, the others in seclusion were beginning to awaken. They scanned with their divine senses and immediately noticed that something was wrong with ancient god Qing Yun. Another thought body has entered ancient god Qing Yun's body. Ancient god Resplendence immediately said. And this thought body is extremely powerful. Xin Wuheng's expression darkened. He did not want to see a teammate in danger at a time like this. Whoosh! 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 The group immediately approached and prepared to help ancient god Qing Yun suppress the thought body. Ah! Ancient god Qing Yun screamed, his face contorted in pain as if he was undergoing inhuman torture. Just as the group arrived, ancient god Qing Yun suddenly calmed down and revealed a dreadful and wicked expression. Humans, kill all of you. Ancient god Qing Yun suddenly turned to Zhao Feng's group, thick killing intent radiating from him. The group couldn't help but think of those devil Yao gods. At this moment, ancient god Qing Yun was extremely similar to them. He had lost his mind and seemed to have been demonized, only knowing how to slaughter humans. Whoosh! Ancient god Qing Yun transformed into a streak of white light that shot toward the group. With a wave of his two palms, he sent several white blades of light slashing down. Get out of the way! Zhao Feng immediately called out. The demonized thought body residing in ancient god Qing Yun's body was extremely powerful. After taking control of ancient god Qing Yun, the power it displayed was completely different from that of the devil Yao gods they had encountered before. Moreover, the attacks it used were imbued with time intent, making them extremely fast. Zhao Feng reacted quickly, and his time intent was at level 5, allowing him to easily dodge. Swoosh! Ancient god Resplendence and ancient god Sundermount, on the other hand, had no time to dodge and were struck by the white blades. Two large wounds appeared on ancient god Sundermount's chest, from which blood gushed out. Time intent energy still lingered in the wounds, making them extremely difficult to heal. Ancient god Resplendence fared a little better, only leaving behind 2 wounds on her arms. What do we do? Ancient god Resplendence looked questioningly at Xin Wuheng. Do your best to suppress him, or else kill him. Xin Wuheng thought for a moment and then firmly said. Chapter 1371. After being demonized by the thought body, ancient god Qing Yun paused for a few moments, his face contorted in struggle. Save me! Hurry and save me! Ancient god Qing Yun howled in pain. It was clear that ancient god Qing Yun still had a sliver of consciousness left and was currently fighting back against the thought body. This sight caused the giant god race team to pause in action. After all, ancient god Qing Yun was a member of the giant god race, and the giant god race was in dire need of manpower. A peak rank 8 ancient god was extremely important to the giant god race. But a moment later, ancient god Qing Yun once more revealed his cold and cruel face. Kill! Kill them all! Ancient god Qing Yun transformed into a streak of white light as he charged forward once more, his sinister and cold aura spreading through the area. He waved his arms, sending a series of white blades hurtling toward the giant god race team. Ancient God Sundermount, back up. Xin Wuheng immediately called out. The demonized ancient god Qingyun was extremely powerful and skilled in time intent. Ancient god Sundermount's cultivation was too low. Remaining here was just waiting for death. Giant God Finger. Xin Wuheng circulated his bloodline power and thrust out a finger. These attacks were too difficult to dodge, so it was better to face them head-on and destroy them. Boom! Bang! A dazzling white beam of light shot forward, shattering the majority of the white blades. On the other side, Ancient God Resplendence was a peak rank 8, a little stronger than Ancient God Qingyun, so she was able to deal with these attacks. As for Zhao Feng, he used the perceptive abilities of the god's spiritual eye, time intent, and spatial blink to barely dodge all the attacks. Attack! Xin Wuheng called out. He and Ancient God Resplendence activated their giant god race bloodlines, increasing their strength and defense even without revealing their true bodies. The two of them used their giant god race bloodline combat skills and unleashed a vast palm of white light. This palm of light was incredibly powerful and also contained the energy of the giant god race bloodline. It was a large-scale attack with incredible destructive power. Chaos Origin God Suppressing Seal. Zhao Feng immediately used a large area of effect attack. He circulated his Chaos Origin divine power, condensing a dark seal the size of a mountain, and then hurled it forward. The attacks of the trio covered the entire area. It should be enough. Ancient God Resplendence called out. Be careful. Zhao Feng suddenly shouted. Boom! Ancient God Qingyun suddenly charged out of the destructive storm, a bloodthirsty and evil look on his face. Kill! He closed in on Xin Wuheng directly, waving his palms and sending out countless white blades. How could this be? He's not injured at all. Ancient God Resplendence was alarmed. The consciousness body that is stored in his body is very extraordinary. Zhao Feng said in a low voice. In this moment of mortal danger, the demonized ancient god Qingyun unleashed extremely profound time intent to dodge to the weakest point of the attack. The giant god race had tough bodies and specialized in defense. After being wounded, he used time intent to rapidly heal his wounds. That thought entity's time power Upanishad was extremely profound. It had reached at least the 8th level, maybe even the 9th level. Moreover, it was using it skillfully. Xiao! A dark gray light flashed and a little thieving cat appeared on Zhao Feng's shoulder. The people from Ancient Soul Hall are about to arrive. Zhao Feng's expression darkened. There were 5 of them before, and if each of them had gotten a little stronger, they might have been able to contend against the 3 from Ancient Soul Hall. But now, something had happened to Ancient God Qingyun and he had become an enemy. If the 3 from Ancient Soul Hall attacked, they would be in even more danger. We have to finish off Ancient God Qingyun as quickly as possible. Zhao Feng blinked to Xin Wuheng's side and informed him of the situation with Ancient Soul Hall. Work together and kill him. Xin Wuheng immediately made up his mind. He and Ancient God Resplendence charged forward, attacking Ancient God Qingyun from 2 sides. Xin Wuheng continued to point out with his finger. The might of his finger was strong and profound. Ancient God Resplendence used a water combat skill, filling the sky with enormous palms of water spirit that surged forward like furious waves. Ancient God Qingyun's movements were restricted, and he had very little room to dodge. Flame Soul Devil Eye. Zhao Feng unleashed the eye bloodline technique he had been preparing. The majority of his eye bloodline techniques were lock-on attacks, and they didn't have a very large range, making it very difficult for them to hit the demonized ancient god Qingyun. This was why Zhao Feng used a soul illusion technique. As long as ancient god Qingyun lost consciousness and slowed down, the other eye bloodline techniques could easily hit him. Hum! A scarlet-red mist shot out of Zhao Feng's left eye and shot forward. This scorching red soul energy had a rather large range, so the restricted ancient god Qing Yun was unable to dodge. He's been hit. Ancient god Resplendence rejoiced. The one controlling ancient god Qing Yun was a thought body. Once he was struck by Zhao Feng's eye bloodline technique, he would definitely be affected, and his control would be greatly reduced. But the imagined scene did not occur. Kill. After entering the range of Zhao Feng's soul illusion technique, ancient god Qing Yun was not very affected. He turned around and charged at ancient god Resplendence. How could this be? Ancient god Resplendence called out in alarm. Zhao Feng was also taken aback. Although he hadn't used his origin energy, his eye bloodline technique shouldn't have been this weak. After thinking about it, Zhao Feng was sure that it wasn't because his eye bloodline technique was too weak. When this thought body was alive, it had to have been a supreme expert. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for it to possess such powerful time intent. But after all this time, even though it was just a thought body, it still had such a strong resistance to soul attacks. This meant that there was only one possibility. When this thought body was alive, it probably belonged to some extremely powerful and unique ancient race that was extremely resistant to soul attacks. At this moment, rumble. Massive explosions came from the entrance. They're coming. Zhao Feng's expression darkened. The demonized ancient god Qing Yun was far too difficult to deal with, and they were quickly unable to subdue him. By now, the 3 members of Ancient Soul Hall had arrived. There's someone else. Ancient god Qing Yun turned his head toward the entrance, his cold and sinister eyes turning. Boom! Bang! The entrance was destroyed by a powerful divine power attack. The 3 members of Ancient Soul Hall slowly walked down, faint smiles on their faces. Ancient Soul Hall. Ancient God Resplendence instantly appeared in despair. If Ancient God Qing Yun hadn't been demonized, they might have been able to fight back if they worked together. The Ancient Soul Hall trio swept their gazes over and froze in place. They had originally believed that the giant god race would be ready for battle. But the result was completely different from what they had imagined. How laughable. To think that there would still be internal strife at a time like this. A peak rank 8 from Ancient Soul Hall couldn't help but laugh. However, the rank 9 Ancient God and Ancient God JLC noticed that Ancient God Qing Yun was acting strangely. He's actually been controlled by a thought body. Ancient God JLC put on an interested expression. Good sir, there is no harm in working with us to kill these people. Ancient God JLC added. Ancient God Qing Yun had clearly been infected and controlled by the evil thoughts, causing him to become enemies with the giant god race. But the fact that Ancient God Qing Yun had survived until now was proof that he was extremely powerful. Even if the others worked together, they still wouldn't be able to kill him. Not good. Xin Wuheng's expression darkened. Ancient God Qing Yun had been controlled by a thought body, and that thought body was also in a daze and only knew how to kill. He was originally hoping that Ancient Soul Hall would directly attack Ancient God Qing Yun. If that happened, Ancient God Qing Yun would definitely counterattack and become their helper. But to his surprise, Ancient God JLC was so cautious that he wasn't in a rush to attack, instead expressing his goodwill to Ancient God Qing Yun. For a moment, everyone stared at Ancient God Qing Yun. His mind was in a daze and extremely unstable. No one knew what Ancient God Qing Yun would do. All of you. Ancient God Qing Yun fiercely glared at the Ancient Soul Hall members, his face filled with rage and agitation. The Ancient Soul Hall trio grimaced. Ancient God Qing Yun's expression seemed a little off. Logically speaking, the one controlling Ancient God Qing Yun was a thought body, so he shouldn't have so much hatred for them. All of you have their energy on you. Ancient God Qing Yun's face was savage, seemingly about to explode with boundless rage and resentment. Whoosh! Ancient God Qing Yun's body flickered as he approached the Ancient Soul Hall trio. Kill! 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 He constantly chanted this word, his body seething with rage and killing intent as he madly swung his hands. Swoosh! The white blades that filled the sky poured down like a white curtain from the sky. What's going on? He's suddenly gone crazy. The rank 9 Ancient God of Ancient Soul Hall blurted out in alarm. Ancient God Jailsia's expression darkened, but he said nothing. The thought body residing in Ancient God Qing Yun's body seemed to have an extremely deep grudge against them. It was to the extent that Ancient God Qing Yun immediately made them his first targets. Boom boom boom. Ancient God JLC waved a hand, unleashing several palms of energy to block Ancient God Qing Yun's attacks. The giant God race members were frozen to the spot. This scene was something that they had not expected. Earlier, the demonized Ancient God Qing Yun had attacked them out of an instinctive desire for blood and slaughter. But now, Ancient God Qing Yun seemed to have an extremely important reason for attacking the Ancient Soul Hall trio. Perhaps that thought body had a deep grudge against Ancient Soul Hall when it was alive. However, the ancestral legacy treasury had always been under the control of the giant God race, so the members of Ancient Soul Hall should have never come here before. Kill! Xin Wuheng called out. Now was not the time to think about such things. Escaping was more important. The demonized Ancient God Qing Yun had gotten much stronger, and now that they were working together, they had a better chance of escaping. Swoosh! 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 The giant God race members and Zhao Feng immediately charged at the Ancient Soul Hall trio. Kill! Ancient God Qing Yun roared, his body seething with killing intent. A profound time intent shrouded Ancient God JLC from time to time, affecting his condition. Giant God Finger. Xin Wuheng circulated his giant God race bloodline, unleashing powerful attacks and profound intent. Tribulation Lightning Eye Flame. Zhao Feng undid the seal on his origin energy and used a powerful Tribulation Lightning Eye bloodline technique. After this round of attacks, Zhao Feng's group immediately charged out. Although they could currently fight against half-step God Lords, if this battle continued, they would be the first to give out. Don't even think about escaping. Ancient God Jailsia's expression darkened as he pursued. Kill! Kill! Ancient God Qing Yun's eyes were red, his mind dominated by rage and killing intent as he madly attacked Ancient God JLC. A profound time intent descended on Ancient God JLC's body, affecting his condition and lowering his speed. Damn, this scoundrel! Ancient God JLC was furious. The demonized Ancient God Qing Yun was incredibly fast, and his resistance to soul attacks was even stronger than the ancient soul races, making him extremely difficult to deal with. In addition, Ancient God JLC's group still had no idea how they had offended the thought body controlling Ancient God Qing Yun. Chapter 1372. They're out. Ancient God Resplendence rejoiced. She had never imagined that she would be able to escape so smoothly because of Ancient God Qing Yun. You can't escape. Ancient God JLC's furious voice resounded through the Heaven's Legacy Race Building. Zhao Feng's group fled from the Heaven's Legacy Race Building. No matter how strong Ancient God Qing Yun was, he could not stop the trio from Ancient Soul Hall. Ancient God JLC's group had no time to fight with Ancient God Qing Yun. Their goal was the Ancient God Seal, to kill Zhao Feng and the giant God race. Whoosh! 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 3 dark figures and a white light rushed out at the same time. Kill! All of you must die. Ancient God Qing Yun had already gone mad. Seething with rage and killing intent, he stared at the Ancient Soul Hall trio and attacked with reckless abandon. This guy, Ancient God JLC, was trembling in anger. If not for Ancient God Qing Yun's interference, they would have long ago captured Zhao Feng's group. Why did ancient god Cheng Yun hate them so much that he insisted on opposing them? They've escaped. The rank 9 ancient god of ancient Soul Hall immediately said. Chase. The ancient Soul Hall trio naturally could not allow Zhao Feng's group to escape, so they gave chase. But ancient god Cheng Yun was even faster. Buzz. A strange ripple of energy engulfed ancient god Jalesia's group. They were already flying at high speed, but they were getting further and further away from Zhao Feng and the others. Scram! Ancient god Jalesi couldn't help but curse, and then he thrust out a palm. Xiao! Ancient god Cheng Yun easily dodged ancient god Jalesia's palm. But when the palm of black light brushed past ancient god Cheng Yun, a sinister black crocodile suddenly charged out. The moment the crocodile flew out, it grew to the size of a small house and bit down on ancient god Cheng Yun. This black crocodile was ancient god Jalesia's soul beast, a strange creature that attacked and devoured souls. However, the thought body in ancient god Cheng Yun's body was extremely resistant to soul attacks. Coupled with the effects of the time profundity, the black crocodile's damage to him was extremely slow. Ancient god Cheng Yun used this chance to struggle. Let's go and kill Xian Wuheng and the others before this guy breaks free and take back the ancient god seal. Ancient god Jalesi barked. Zhao Feng and the others, who were fleeing, suddenly felt a dark and powerful aura rapidly approaching them from behind. The ancient soul race had always been skilled in speed, and as a half-step godlord, ancient god Jalesi was even faster. Not good. They've escaped from ancient god Cheng Yun. Ancient god Sundermount immediately said. They originally believed that ancient god Cheng Yun would hold down the ancient Soul Hall trio while they used this chance to escape. However, ancient god Cheng Yun was only rather difficult to deal with, not capable of holding down a half-step godlord. Don't even think about going anywhere. Ancient god Jalesi heartily laughed as he circulated his divine power and soul energy and thrust out a palm. Boom! The black waves that filled the sky surged forward rapidly. Dodge! Xian Wuheng immediately said. Ancient god Jalesia's soul attack contained level 9 water intent. Once struck, it would be extremely difficult to escape. The darkness intent in the soul attack would have an enormous effect on soul intent, causing one's fighting power to plummet. If ancient god Resplendence and ancient god Sundermount were struck by this attack, their souls would immediately sink into silence. You can't escape. Zhao Feng straightforwardly said. After a few moments of discussion, they reached an agreement. Boom! A moment later, Xian Wuheng, ancient god Resplendence, and ancient god Sundermount activated their bloodlines, causing a dazzling white light to illuminate the world. When the light dissipated, 3 incomparably huge giants stood between heaven and earth. A bloodline energy that could intimidate all living beings instantly began to spread out. A last-minute counterattack? Ancient god Jalesi sneered. In his view, Xian Wuheng's group knew that they couldn't escape, so they were prepared to fight with all their strength for a chance at survival. Ancient god Jalesia's soul beast was restraining ancient god Cheng Yun, causing his strength to drop. But after consuming the celestial soul purifying spirit dew, his soul injuries had all been healed, and he had long ago returned to his peak state. Die, Xian Wuheng. Ancient god Jalesia's body began to twist, transforming into a black and transparent soul body that exuded a dreadful soul pressure. Hisses. Black waves of water appeared around ancient god Jalesi, and it took only a few moments for them to form into a massive wave. Suddenly, the wave twisted and turned into a massive black skeletal claw that snatched at Xian Wuheng. Whoosh! Although Xian Wuheng's body was enormous, his wind intent allowed him to move very quickly. After dodging ancient god Jalesia's attack, Xian Wuheng thrust out a finger. In the face of this massive finger, the ancient Soul Hall trio could only retreat. If you don't run, we'll be able to save some effort. The other two immediately released their soul beasts. One was a rhinoceros with spikes on its back and the other was a slender lizard. After devouring soul energy, the two soul beasts rapidly grew in size, and then they began to use soul attacks to attack Ancient God Resplendence and Ancient God Sundermount. Ancient Soul Hall bastards, die! Ancient God Sundermount roared, stirring up the earth intent of the world as he punched. Ancient God Sundermount fought against a rank 8 Ancient God of Ancient Soul Hall while Ancient God Resplendence clashed with a rank 9 Ancient God. Meanwhile, Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng worked together to deal with Ancient God JLC. Tribulation Lightning I Flame. Zhao Feng had been behind Xian Wuheng this entire time, occasionally firing I Bloodline techniques at Ancient God JLC. Kid, don't try to show off your soul I Bloodline techniques in front of this old man. Ancient God JLC sneered. Although Zhao Feng's I Bloodline techniques could be unleashed instantaneously, Ancient God JLC was able to sense them locking onto him and instantly avoid his vitals. Moreover, he also used a defensive soul art to greatly weaken them. Zhao Feng pretended not to hear and continued to unleash soul I Bloodline techniques. Crucially, however, Zhao Feng's actions could affect Ancient God JLC so that he couldn't use his full power to deal with Xian Wuheng. Giant God Finger. Xian Wuheng gathered up his energy, summoned the 5 elements intent of the world, and thrust out a finger. Broom! The entire ground cracked open, leaving behind an incomparably huge crater. These people have all gotten stronger, especially Xian Wuheng and Zhao Feng. Ancient God JLC's expression darkened. Zhao Feng's cultivation was already approaching the peak of rank 8 while Xian Wuheng, after entering seclusion, was approaching the peak of rank 9. Earlier, Ancient God JLC was brimming with confidence and didn't care about the giant god race. But now, he had to put all his strength into this. Besides, he didn't have any time to waste. Once Ancient God Cheng Yun arrived, he would be in trouble. It's about time to end this. Ancient God JLC indifferently said. Swish. In front of him, a dark, watery pearl appeared, from which all sorts of miserable screams could be faintly heard. Ancient God JLC opened his mouth and swallowed it. Boom! Ancient God JLC's body slightly swelled, and a cold and gloomy soul energy began to exude, causing the world to darken. Soul Annihilating Roar. Ancient God JLC's soul body suddenly swelled and became round. Suddenly, he opened his mouth and spat out a pitch-black tornado. As this tornado sped forward, it began to absorb the energy of the world and pull in the souls of others. What's going on? Ancient God Sundermount called out in alarm. He suddenly felt as if his soul was being pulled by a powerful force towards the pitch-black tornado. Nearby, Ancient God Resplendence was faring a little better, but her soul was also being pulled on at all times, making it impossible for her to fight with all her strength. Elder has swallowed a nether soul pearl. He's preparing to finish us off. The rank 9 Ancient Gods of Ancient Soul Hall rejoiced. Nether soul pearls were created by Ancient Soul Hall experts by extracting powerful souls and using a special technique. By using this pearl as an energy source, one could use a special secret soul art to instantly raise their power by another level. Oh no! Xian Wuheng had an unprecedentedly grave expression. The trump card of a half-step godlord was enough to heavily injure or even kill an ordinary peak rank 9 Ancient God. Moreover, Ancient God JLC's trump card was a soul attack, making it even more dangerous. The rapidly approaching pitch-black tornado was enormous and imbued with a powerful suction force. Xian Wuheng could not completely dodge it. He also knew that as long as a small part of his soul was hit by the black tornado, his entire soul body would be slowly sucked in and minced into pieces. Not even Zhao Feng would be able to help him against such a powerful area of effect soul attack. Since that's the case, I can only do this. Xian Wuheng was like a giant mountain as he stood motionless, waiting to die. The rank 9 ancient god of ancient Soul Hall faintly smiled. How could Xian Wuheng possibly block ancient god Jalesia's trump card, especially a soul attack? It seemed like Xian Wuheng knew that he couldn't deal with it and had given up on resisting. But ancient god Jalesi suddenly sensed that the world around him had changed. Boom! At this time, Xian Wuheng's body burst forth with a peerless bloodline divine power. At the same time, a wondrous energy spread out from his soul and seeped into the world. In a flash, only 5 elements energy remained in the world. All other intents and energies were suppressed and pushed aside. Whoosh! The moment this power appeared, the pitch-black tornado suddenly froze. Although it was a soul attack, it was still affected. The profundity of darkness slowly faded. Even the 9-stage water profundity was greatly suppressed by Xian Wuheng's will. What's going on, this energy? The 2 members of Ancient Soul Hall suddenly sensed that their souls, divine power, intents, and all other kinds of energy had been completely suppressed, and they couldn't even use them. This is the power of a law. Ancient God Jalesi was dazed for a long while before he finally spoke. As a half-step God Lord, he naturally understood this power. A law was the ultimate existence above level 9 intents. Only a God Lord could possess it, and it was a realm that he dreamed of reaching. This is the power of a law. Zhao Feng was flabbergasted. At this moment, all the energy in the world, including ancient god Jalesia's pitch-black tornado, was suppressed by the power of a God Lord and seemed to slow down. If that's the case, Xian Wuheng can block this attack. Zhao Feng's eyes focused, the eye intent in his left eye rippling with dreamy light. God Eye duplication. Zhao Feng's left eye focused on the pitch-black tornado. Normally, even if Zhao Feng used all his power, he would find it very difficult to duplicate the trump card of a half-step God Lord. But at this moment, the pitch-black tornado was somewhat weakened, so perhaps he could succeed. Boom! The heavily weakened and suppressed pitch-black tornado slammed into Xian Wuheng's body. Xian Wuheng was like an ancient mountain that had existed for 1,000 years. He stood motionless, as if nothing could affect him at this moment. He blocked it. Ancient God Jalesia's heart tightened. Xian Wuheng had used a secret art to mobilize the hidden energy in his body to block his trump card. Humph, after using the power of a God Lord, you're already an arrow at the end of its flight. How much longer can you last? Ancient God Jalesi sneered as he charged forward, ready to strike when the opportunity presented itself. But suddenly, he sensed that something was wrong behind him. With a sweep of his divine sense, ancient God Jalesi grimaced. At some point, a silver eye of heaven had appeared behind him. Suddenly, the silver eye erupted with dreamy mist, and then a pitch-black tornado surged out and engulfed ancient God Jalesia's group of 3. Chapter 1373. God Eye Duplication, Soul-Destroying Roar. The pitch-black tornado suddenly rushed out and engulfed the 3 members of Ancient Soul Hall. One could see the soul of the peak rank 8 ancient god of Ancient Soul Hall being sucked into the black tornado. A few moments later, it was ground to pieces and turned into a source of energy for the black tornado to increase its power. The rank 9 ancient god of Ancient Soul Hall sensed it long ago, but he could not dodge and could only do his utmost to block. How could this be? This is my secret technique. Ancient God Jalesi was flabbergasted. However, in the face of a life-or-death crisis, he had no time to think too much. He could only activate his soul defense secret technique, and a layer of dark, rotating water flowed around his body. Boom! Shio! The pitch-black tornado passed through the Ancient Soul Hall trio and rumbled into the distance. Thump! The peak rank 8 and rank 9 ancient gods of Ancient Soul Hall dropped to the ground. Their souls had already been pulled away by the pitch-black tornado, and nothing was left of them. Only ancient god Jalesia's pitch-black soul remained floating in the sky, appearing extremely weak and dim. After all, the soul-annihilating roar was one of his supreme techniques. Ancient God JLC was extremely familiar with its principles, so it was easier for him to deal with it. Hoo. The wind and clouds surged, and the feeling of suppressing everything instantly vanished. In the distance, Xin Wuheng looked exhausted, and his body slowly shrank. Using God-Lord level energy placed an enormous burden on his body. If he did not control it well enough, it could even cause massive damage to his foundation. Ancient God JLC stared at Xin Wuheng in fear. Just now, Xin Wuheng's control was even stronger, and he could have used the power of a God Lord to heavily injure him. How do you know my secret soul skill? Ancient God JLC gloomily stared at Zhao Feng. Originally, after Xin Wuheng used the power of a divine master, he would definitely enter a period of weakness. As long as he waited for the right time, he would be able to harvest the entire battlefield. However, Zhao Feng had used some unknown method to unleash his consummate skill, Soul Annihilation Roar. The ancient Soul Hall trio had not expected this. Caught off guard, 2 ancient Soul Hall members were killed, and ancient God Jailsia's soul was severely injured. At this moment, he could only display 40% of his peak strength at most. What's going on? Ancient God Resplendence and Ancient God Sundermount stood in a daze, their minds blank. In that instant, too many things had happened. It was too shocking. First, Ancient God JLC used a powerful soul-killing move to take Xin Wuheng's life, but Xin Wuheng exploded with the God Lord power hidden in his body, intimidating Ancient God JLC's group. Soon after, Zhao Feng used Ancient God JLC's secret skill, catching Ancient Soul Hall off guard and killing 2 ancient gods. The eye of heaven in the sky disappeared. The consumption of God eye duplication depended on the condition of the object being duplicated. For Zhao Feng to duplicate the trump card of a half-step God Lord, the consumption was enormous. Instead of worrying about your own life, you're more concerned about this. Zhao Feng looked at Ancient God JLC and faintly smiled. Even if you kill the 2 of them, you won't be able to do anything to me with your current strength. Ancient God JLC was taken aback at first, and then he began to laugh. Firstly, he was a half-step God Lord of the ancient soul race, so he was the fastest person present. Secondly, Xin Wuheng had used the power of a God Lord, so he would find it very difficult to use the rest of his strength. Although he didn't know how Zhao Feng had managed to create his secret skill, he had definitely used up a great deal of energy, and his strength had dropped. As for Ancient God Resplendence and Ancient God Sundermount, he had no need to worry about them. Kill! Zhao Feng called out. The 3 members of the giant god race immediately moved out. Their hatred for Ancient Soul Hall far surpassed that of Zhao Feng's. Zhao Feng's group of 4 charged at Ancient God JLC. Tribulation Lightning Eye Flame. Zhao Feng circulated Tribulation Lightning energy, condensed a bolt of lightning flame, and fired it at Ancient God JLC. Ancient God JLC was extremely weak at this time, his senses and resistance greatly reduced. Zhao Feng's Tribulation Lightning Eye Flame struck him. Moreover, the power of the Tribulation Lightning Eye Flame was related to the strength and quantity of Tribulation Lightning energy. It had little to do with one's soul or eye intent. Hiss. Ancient God JLC hissed, a look of surprise on his face. The eye bloodline technique Zhao Feng used was not much weaker than it was before. Blazing Wind Finger. Xin Wuheng flew over and thrust out a finger. Even without using his giant god race bloodline, he was still very strong, and his profound intent made him capable of extraordinary damage. Boom! Bang! Crash! On the other side, Ancient God Resplendence and Ancient God Sundermount unleashed countless palms and fists at Ancient God JLC. Damn! Ancient God JLC had an extremely nasty grimace. 2 of his teammates were dead and he was heavily injured. He could no longer do anything to Zhao Feng and Xin Wuheng. But Ancient God JLC was unwilling to leave because he didn't want to admit defeat. This was the third time he had failed, and this time, it could no longer be called a failure. It was a miserable defeat, a complete and utter defeat. But his opponents had the numbers advantage. If he continued to fight, it would only be disadvantageous to Ancient God JLC. This old man will definitely take revenge for this. Ancient God JLC clenched his teeth and fled. Humph, Ancient God JLC, haven't you forgotten something? Zhao Feng suddenly smiled. Oh no. Ancient God JLC grimaced. The ish. A ray of white light suddenly flashed in front of him, and it was rapidly approaching him. Kill. I'll kill you. Ancient God Qing Yun, his face savage and furious, instantly appeared in front of Ancient God JLC. Swoosh. Several white blades slashed down, piercing through Ancient God JLC's body. Moreover, strange ripples of energy began to spread through his surroundings, causing Ancient God JLC's speed and movements to slow down. Whoosh! 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 At this moment, Zhao Feng and the giant god race members rapidly approached. Ripples of multicolored energy instantly engulfed Ancient God JLC. You! Ancient God JLC had an extremely nasty grimace. He originally believed that while he couldn't do anything to Zhao Feng and Xi and Wuheng, they wouldn't be able to do anything to him either. With his speed, escaping would be extremely easy. But Ancient God JLC had forgotten about the troublesome Ancient God Qing Yun. Damn! I can only ask for help. Ancient God JLC's face was ashen. As a half-step God Lord, he was forced to ask for help by a group of rank 9 and rank 8 ancient gods. When he thought about this, Ancient God JLC felt utterly humiliated. But with Ancient God Qing Yun present, he couldn't escape this group. If this continued, the wounds to his soul would only get worse and worse, and he might never be able to enter the ranks of God Lords. Ancient God JLC immediately used his message token to ask for help from the other half-step God Lord and Yuheng. Ask for help. When Yuheng received this message, he froze, his face rather cold. Which squad has entered the perilous area of this space, encountered danger, and sent us a distress call? Ancient God Destruction Flow asked. After all, this dimension was filled with treasures. Even half-step God Lords would find it impossible to resist the allure of these strange treasures. Apart from searching for the whereabouts of Xi and Wuheng and the other two squads would definitely search for precious materials as well. Ancient God Destruction Flow was in the same team as Yuheng, so he could only follow Yuheng to search for the Ancient God Seal. Otherwise, if he encountered a resource that he needed, he would also put aside the search mission. Ancient Soul Hall's Ancient God Prison C team found Xi and Wuheng's group, but they were defeated and helplessly sent out a request for help. A smile suddenly appeared on Yuheng's cold face, sending chills down everyone's spines. Yuheng placed great emphasis on the words Ancient Soul Hall. Before entering this place, God Lord Stellar Aspect had emphasized time and time again that they had to listen to Yuheng's orders, or else they would have to bear the consequences. But in the end, the people of Ancient Soul Hall did not do as God Lord Stellar Aspect said. How is this possible? The Ancient God JLC team was defeated. Ancient God Destruction Flow was alarmed. Although he hoped that Ancient God JLC would fail, this sort of failure was simply too unreasonable. The other peak rank 8 was also in disbelief. Ancient God JLC had failed so badly that he had to ask the other teams for help. Let's hurry over. Ancient God Destruction Flow had an excited expression. Xin Wuheng's team and Ancient God JLC's team had just experienced a major battle, so they were bound to be extremely weak. If they rushed over, they would definitely end everything with an absolute advantage. When the time came, they would even be able to watch Ancient God JLC make a fool of himself. It's very far away. Yuheng called out. Could it be that the Destiny Dao energy intentionally led me here? Yu Heng's expression darkened as he mentally said to himself. He didn't have this sort of feeling before, but now that he thought about the situation and many other details, he realized this possibility. On the other side, Zhao Feng and the giant god race team were working together to pursue ancient god JLC. All of you will die a miserable death. Ancient god JLC's body was dim and devoid of light, and he had a miserable expression on his face. He could only use defensive secret arts to minimize the damage he took. Suddenly, Zhao Feng stopped. Let's go. Retreat for now. Zhao Feng flatly said. Why? Ancient God Resplendence immediately asked. They had the advantage at this moment, and if they continued to pursue, they might even be able to kill Ancient God JLC. Why retreat? There might be other Ancient Soul Hall experts in this dimension. Zhao Feng straightforwardly said. Ancient God JLC had been extremely anxious before, but he had suddenly calmed down. There had to be a reason for this. These words alarmed the members of the giant god race. What Zhao Feng said was completely possible. If other experts of Ancient Soul Hall arrived, they would be powerless to fight back in their current state. As for Ancient God Qingyun, he had completely lost his mind. If they tried to stop him, they might even suffer a counterattack and invite disaster upon themselves. Whoosh! 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 Zhao Feng's group suddenly began to retreat. They actually ran. Ancient God JLC's expression darkened. His reinforcements would arrive very quickly, but Zhao Feng's group had run. His injuries were even more severe now, and he no longer had the ability to stop Zhao Feng's group. Besides, Ancient God Qingyun was still relentlessly entangling him. Whoosh! A soul-piercing chill suddenly appeared in the distance. Then, 3 silhouettes slowly appeared. The one in the lead was shrouded in snowflakes, revealing only her cold and elegant face. Ancient God Ice Jade. Ancient God JLC was elated. JLC, I didn't think that you would be so careless and end up in such a miserable state. Ancient God Ice Jade flatly said as she glanced at Ancient God Qingyun. The soul-piercing chill penetrated deep into Ancient God Qingyun's body and seemed to wake him up a little. Ancient God Ice Jade was also a half-step God Lord, and the pressure she exuded was even stronger than Ancient God JLC at his peak. You also have their energy on you. Ancient God Qingyun's face was furious and gloomy as he stopped in the air. At this moment, there were 2 half-step God Lords in front of him, but Ancient God Qingyun still did not immediately retreat. From this, one could see just how deep his hatred for Ancient Soul Hall was. Suddenly, Ancient God Qingyun grimaced, most of his anger vanishing. Come here. Come here. A summoning voice came from the soul, piercing through spacetime to resound in the mind of the thought body. This summoning voice was extremely warm and familiar, causing the thought body in Ancient God Qingyun's body to become even calmer and more urgent to go over. Chapter 1374. Come here. Come here. A summoning voice came from the soul, piercing through spacetime to resound in the thought body's mind. This summoning voice was extremely intimate and familiar, calming the thought body's rage and making him calmer and more rational. JLC, what's going on with this person? Where are Xian Wuheng's group? Ancient God Ice Jade coldly asked. When Ancient God JLC sent out a call for help, he said that he was being pursued by Xian Wuheng and Zhao Feng's group. For this reason, Ancient God Ice Jade immediately led her team over, naturally hoping to take the credit for this mission. But when she arrived, she only saw Ancient God Qingyun. Ancient God Ice Jade had sensed Ancient God Qingyun's situation and was able to see it, but she still didn't care about him. They've run. This person is also a member of the giant god race. Kill him first. Ancient God JLC immediately said. Ancient God Qingyun had ruined his plans time and time again, and he was extremely troublesome. No matter what he did, he couldn't get rid of him. Ancient God JLC was truly annoyed beyond belief. Ancient God JLC now hated Ancient God Qingyun even more than he hated Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng. Truly useless. Let's see how you explain this to the Hall Master. Ancient God Ice Jade shot Ancient God JLC a disdainful glance. It was obvious that Ancient God JLC had found Xian Wuheng long ago, but for his own selfish reasons, he had not informed the others. If he had successfully completed the mission, it would have been fine, but Ancient God JLC had failed, and he had suffered such a miserable defeat that 2 of his team members had been killed. Ancient God JLC fell silent. This was also what he was worried about. But he still had a chance to redeem himself. As long as he performed well in the following mission and played an important role in taking back the Ancient God Seal, he was confident that the Hall Master and God Lord Stellar Aspect would not punish him. Ancient God Ice Jade moved forward and looked at Ancient God Qingyun. Since this person was already under the control of the thought body, why was he still targeting Ancient Soul Hall with such hatred? At this moment, Ancient God Qingyun turned around. "I'm coming." Ancient God Qingyun respectfully and excitedly said. After saying this, he transformed into a streak of light and flew into the distance. "Don't let him get away." Ancient God JLC immediately called out. He was also confused. Didn't Ancient God Qingyun lose his mind and try to kill him? So fast. Ancient God Ice Jade's expression turned grave. She had somewhat underestimated Ancient God Qingyun. "Stay here and tell me all your secrets." As Ancient God Ice Jade coldly said, the ice and snow around her began to spread. In an instant, a bone-chilling coldness filled the entire world and practically froze everything. However, this chill was directed at the soul level. Ancient God Jaelsia's soul had already been heavily injured, and he immediately found it difficult to endure. In the distance, the thought body within Ancient God Qingyun's body was also assaulted by a freezing chill and couldn't help but tremble. This half-step God Lord is even stronger than Ancient God Jaelsi. Ancient God Qingyun whispered. At this moment, he was much calmer than before. He knew how to carefully observe and analyze. But even if Ancient God Ice Jade was stronger than Ancient God Jaelsi, there was no way she could stop him if he wanted to escape. Time flows smoothly. Ancient God Qingyun called out, and powerful ripples of time energy immediately began to spread through his body. Then, something incredible happened. Ancient God Qingyun's body began to glow with a strange and twisted light. His entire body seemed to become transparent, and with a buzz, he transformed into a mystical ray of light. Swish! A moment later, the bizarre ray of light that Ancient God Qingyun had transformed into ignored the chill and flew away with even greater speed. This is... Ancient God Jaelsi was dumbstruck. Even when facing Ancient God Ice Jade at her peak state, the other party was still able to escape unscathed. Just what sort of secret escape art was that for it to be so bizarre and powerful? The other 2 members of Ancient God Ice Jade's team were also stunned. This is no longer a simple time secret art, but an even more profound manipulation of time. Could this thought body have been that race when it was alive? Ancient God Ice Jade's frosty face gradually turned grave. For a moment, her mind was filled with doubts. If this person really had been that race when he was alive, she didn't even want to offend him. Fortunately, their goal this time was still Xian Wuheng and the Ancient God Seal. Where did Xian Wuheng run off to? Ancient God Ice Jade coldly asked. In the direction that Giant God Race member fled in. On the other end, Zhao Feng's group was cautiously flying through the world. After all, the mystic realm was full of dangers. They weren't in their best condition, so they had to be careful. Get as far away from this place as possible. Xian Wuheng said. If anyone else from Ancient Soul Hall was here, they would assuredly return to investigate once more. At this moment, the group suddenly sensed something strange behind them. With a sweep of their divine senses, all of them were alarmed. Ancient God Qing Yun. Ancient God Sundermount called out in alarm. The demonified ancient God Qing Yun had left an extremely deep impression on them. At this moment, ancient God Qing Yun was charging toward them. Had he given up on pursuing ancient God JLC and turned around to kill them? Ancient God Qing Yun also saw Zhao Feng's group, and a hint of anger and hatred appeared on his face. However, he had used a secret art to escape from a half-step God Lord, so he was somewhat weak and unfit to continue fighting. Moreover, he had more important matters to attend to, so he had no time to deal with Zhao Feng's group. There's a huge change in his expression. Zhao Feng called out. Ancient God Qing Yun was even calmer at this moment, but that was only the thought body. Ancient God Qing Yun's soul was probably completely submerged. The Ancient God Qing Yun flew past them and vanished into the distance. He's a little weak. Could there really be other members of Ancient Soul Hall here? Ancient God Resplendence suddenly said. Ancient God Qing Yun hated Ancient Soul Hall as if there was a blood feud between them. But Ancient God Qing Yun did not continue to pursue Ancient God JLC. Instead, he appeared extremely weak as he fled into the distance. It appeared that other experts of Ancient Soul Hall had arrived, and Ancient God Qing Yun was no match for them, so he chose to flee. Wait, he seems to be in a hurry to go somewhere. Zhao Feng, who had observed the situation more carefully, immediately said. Should we follow him and take a look? Ancient God Resplendence asked. The thought body residing in Ancient God Qing Yun's body was definitely a living being of this dimension. The place he was in such a hurry to go to was definitely extremely important. Let's get as far away from this place as possible and find a place to heal our injuries. Zhao Feng suggested. The four of them were in extremely poor condition. If they encountered a group of Yao gods or some other danger, they would probably die here. There's a Heaven's Legacy race building up ahead. Ancient God Sundermount's eyes flashed. Earlier, when they entered a Heaven's Legacy race building, they were basically certain that this was not the Heaven's Legacy race's inheritance ground. Thus, they weren't very excited to see a Heaven's Legacy race building. It's not just this one. Zhao Feng looked into the distance and saw even more things. He realized that this wasn't the only Heaven's Legacy race building up ahead. Moreover, these Heaven's Legacy race buildings were rather unique. They were equipped with many attack-type mechanisms, like fortresses prepared for war. In addition, these buildings had all been damaged to a certain extent. Some of them were even reduced to rubble. So many Heaven's Legacy race buildings. Ancient God Resplendence said in shock. She had seen quite a few Heaven's Legacy civilizations, but this was her first time seeing buildings that were used for war. Stop! There's a group of Yao gods in that massive grey castle. Zhao Feng suddenly stopped and messaged. The group then carefully avoided them and continued onward. There was a battle here. Xin Wuhan whispered. One side of the battle is related to the Heaven's Legacy race, and it might even be the Heaven's Legacy race. Ancient God Sundermount speculated. The Heaven's Legacy race was the third-ranked mythical race of the 10,000 ancient races. There were far too many legends about them. Could the previous owner of the Ancestral Legacy Treasury have been the Heaven's Legacy race? Xin Wuhan thoughtfully said. The Ancient God Seal was a special divine artifact refined by the Heaven's Legacy race, and it was the key to this dimension. There were also many Heaven's Legacy race war-type buildings in this dimension. It seemed like something major had taken place here. The other two members of the Giant God race and Zhao Feng were even more convinced that the Ancestral Legacy Treasury was not the Giant God races, but some mysterious place related to the Heaven's Legacy race. 5 days later, the group was still flying through this dimension. In this vast world, one could see a Heaven's Legacy race building at regular intervals. That giant silver tower. Zhao Feng's eyes suddenly focused on a metal tower of the Heaven's Legacy race. This silver tower was much taller than any of the buildings they had seen so far, and it was rather well preserved. His previous experience told Zhao Feng that any relatively large and intact building would be occupied by a group of Yao gods. But there were no signs of any Yao gods living near this silver tower. Once they got closer, Zhao Feng finally understood. As it turned out, because this building was too well preserved, all the entrances were sealed and there were no holes that could be crawled through. Ordinary Yao gods were simply incapable of entering. Let's enter this giant tower and heal our injuries before we make any other plans. Zhao Feng suggested. Meow. The little thieving cat immediately jumped out of the interspatial dimension, its eyes flashing as if it was extremely interested in this building. Right, this cat is skilled in Heaven's Legacy secret arts. It should be able to open the entrance to this giant tower. Ancient God Resplendence rejoiced. Boom! The little thieving cat rushed to the entrance of the metal tower. After searching around for a while, a metal door suddenly opened. Once the group entered, the door to the metal tower closed. Thieving cat. Zhao Feng was rather surprised. Once inside, the little thieving cat immediately ran off. Zhao Feng and the other members of the giant god race first found a place to enter seclusion. Ancient God Resplendence had fought against a rank 9 ancient god, so she had been the most severely injured, her foundation damaged. Xin Wuheng had used the power of a god lord, so he had also injured his foundation. If these injuries were not quickly healed, they would affect his future path of cultivation, making it harder and harder to heal. Zhao Feng was in a slightly better state, but his eye intent had been greatly damaged. After taking some healing medicine, he could slowly recover. Swish! Zhao Feng took out a piece of jade bamboo that glimmered with white light. The moment it appeared, a powerful time energy engulfed the area, causing everything to slow down. Moonlight Sky Bamboo contained time essence and was a treasure for cultivating time intent. It could even increase the user's ability to comprehend time intent. At this moment, Zhao Feng's time intent had already reached level 5. If he used the Moonlight Sky Bamboo, it wouldn't take long for him to reach level 6. One had to realize that Zhao Feng's 5 elements and wind lightning intents were only at the peak of rank 6. Zhao Feng swallowed the Moonlight Sky Bamboo and then entered a state of cultivation. Chapter 1375. After taking a section of Moonlight Sky Bamboo, Zhao Feng instantly felt like the world around him had become extremely slow. His soul was immersed in a wondrous world, where time was sometimes slow and sometimes fast. The essence of time is indeed extraordinary. Zhao Feng was alarmed. His soul consciousness became vague as flows of magical power Upanishad slowly floated in his head. At this moment, Zhao Feng's understanding of time intent reached a whole new level. In less than 20 days, Zhao Feng's time intent had reached the peak of level 5. Not long ago, his time intent had reached level 5. Only the Moonlight Sky Bamboo could have such miraculous effects for him to reach the peak of level 5 so quickly. But even after Zhao Feng's time intent reached the peak of level 5, he still had not used up all the time essence. 20 days later, the time intent energy around Zhao Feng was so faint that it was about to vanish. But suddenly, a strange time intent energy surged out of Zhao Feng's body, affecting the surrounding space and making it abnormally slow. Level 6. Zhao Feng opened his eyes. A single section of Moonlight Sky Bamboo had raised his time intent from level 5 to level 6. It truly lived up to its reputation as a treasure amongst time intent resources. Zhao Feng's God Spiritual Eye already had formidable comprehension abilities, and the Moonlight Sky Bamboo could also increase his comprehension of time intent. This was also why Zhao Feng's time intent had reached level 6. At level 6, time intent had begun to show signs of power. It could now link with other intents and fuse them into Chaos Origin Divine Power. With this, Zhao Feng's Chaos Origin Divine Power had reached another level. Few rank 8 ancient gods could compare to it. I've mostly recovered from the loss of eye intent. Zhao Feng inspected his body's condition. Swish. He left the spacetime robe and returned to the Silver Tower. Meanwhile, the members of the giant god race were still hidden in the dimension, cultivating in seclusion. A powerful ancient bloodline aura radiated from them. Xin Wuheng's bloodline aura was the strongest, even overshadowing the other two. Being here, Zhao Feng felt an invisible bloodline suppression. Xin Wuheng's comprehension abilities are also very strong. By borrowing the power of a god lord to fight with a half-step god lord, I'm confident that he'll be able to greatly improve himself. Zhao Feng speculated. Who? Right at this moment, the powerful aura of the primordial bloodline weakened. A layer of green spatial ripples appeared in the void, and Xin Wuheng stepped out of it. My injuries are no longer a problem. Let's take a look at the situation here first, Xin Wuheng suggested. He had ransacked the giant god race treasury, and he had also obtained quite a few strange materials from the last Heaven's Legacy race building. It would not be difficult for him to heal his wounds. Moreover, the giant god race possessed incredible regenerative abilities. There was no need to worry about ordinary injuries. All they needed to do was stabilize their foundations. Zhao Feng couldn't agree more. After recovering his eye intent, he did not continue to cultivate. He wanted to get a better understanding of this Silver Tower. Perhaps there was some hidden danger here, or perhaps some great fortune. The little thieving cat is on the top floor. Zhao Feng could roughly guess the little thieving cat's position through their contract. Of all the Heaven's Legacy race buildings here, this Silver Tower was probably the most complete. This meant that this Silver Tower had to have some sort of special function or use. Otherwise, the little thieving cat would not have been so interested in this Silver Tower that it would sneak up to the top floor. Similarly, because it had been abandoned for so long, this Heaven's Legacy race building did not have any mechanisms or traps. Zhao Feng and Xin Wuheng went up together. They did not encounter anything special along the way. The two of them felt like this was just an ordinary metal tower. But when Zhao Feng used his left eye to see through it, he discovered that the structure of this Silver Tower was extremely complex. The two quickly arrived at the top floor. This is... Xin Wuheng was taken aback. The scenery of the top floor was completely different from the layout of the lower floors. Around the top floor were piles of unknown mechanical instruments. Countless tiny crystal tubes were intertwined and covered the entire room. In the center of the room was a massive black disc. 9 metal platforms were placed on the disc. The little thieving cat was in the center of these 9 platforms, its paws on the ground as it rubbed against each other. What is it doing? Xin Wuheng asked. On the black disc, there were countless white lines that were almost undetectable. On the other hand, the little thieving cat's paws slid back and forth across the countless lines. Zhao Feng was also extremely curious as to what the little thieving cat was doing. Just when he was about to ask, "Bzzz," the black disc suddenly flashed with a faint white light. Ancient tadpole-like characters appeared and flowed into the 9 metal platforms around the disc. The 9 metal platforms instantly lit up and shot out white rays of light that connected with each other to form a nonagon. Various colors, lines, and dots of light instantly appeared on the nonagon. This is... As Zhao Feng carefully examined this image, his face froze in shock. This is the nearby terrain. Xin Wuheng immediately said. As an ancient god, he would never forget the places he had walked through. This image made them think of the nearby terrain. Meow. The little thieving cat finally stood up and gestured at Zhao Feng, and then it put on a very arrogant expression. Xin Wuheng immediately turned to Zhao Feng. Only Zhao Feng knew what the little thieving cat was talking about. This is a perception pagoda. Zhao Feng straightforwardly said. Upon entering this dimension, everyone's divine sense and senses were greatly suppressed. They could only use 1/10 of their original strength. This place was also filled with danger, making it so that no one dared to recklessly charge in. However, this sensory tower had been constructed by the supreme intelligence of the Heaven's legacy race, so it could sense an extremely vast area. Meow. The little thieving cat extended a paw, a smug look on its face. 5 million li. Zhao Feng was alarmed. Their divine senses could only extend to 30 to 40,000 li at the moment. However, this sensory tower could provide a map of a radius of 5 million li. In addition, this 5 million li was only the maximum range for now. This meant that this number could be increased. Besides that, if the range was reduced, the information within a certain range could be more comprehensive and detailed. The little thieving cat once more began to fiddle around. The range of the map quickly shrank until it was only 500,000 li in radius. However, everything within this 500,000 li could be clearly seen, including the number of Yao gods. They could even make out blurry images. Celestial blood glass fruit. Xin Wuheng suddenly said. Just a moment ago, he had seen a massive red fruit tree in one of the detailed images on the map. 3 or 4 blood-colored glass fruits the size of human heads were growing on this tree. The celestial blood glass fruit gathered the blood energy of the world and could greatly increase one's state of existence. It could also be fused into certain ancient bloodlines to increase the density of the bloodline. The giant god race had vigorous blood energy and cultivated the body-tempering Tao. It just so happened that the celestial blood glass fruit had a certain effect on the giant god race bloodline. Meow. A crafty look appeared on the little thieving cat's face as it began to converse with Zhao Feng and Xin Wuheng. The little thieving cat wanted to stay here and use the sensory tower to survey the surroundings. As for Zhao Feng and Xin Wuheng, they would follow its orders and gather precious resources. After all, with the sensory tower, they would be able to grasp everything, greatly increasing their chances of seizing treasures. Okay. Zhao Feng and Xin Wuheng agreed. Xin Wuheng bore the mission of making the giant god race rise. His primary goal in coming here was to gather as many precious resources as he could. Zhao Feng and Xin Wuheng then left this place. Zhao Feng and the little thieving cat communicated through thoughts, and images could be easily transmitted. Let's go here. Zhao Feng brought Xin Wuheng to some ruins and then burrowed underground. It didn't take long before they discovered several round stones of light in the rock. These are God origin stones. When used as cultivation resources, they can be used to condense divine power. In battle, you can absorb the energy of God origin stones and instantly replenish your Yuan Qi and divine power. Xin Wuheng immediately said. Although God origin stones couldn't compare to the moonlight sky bamboo and jade nether spirit essence stones, they were still extremely precious. Moreover, Zhao Feng and Xin Wuheng didn't have to pay anything to obtain these God origin stones. The two headed to the second location. This was the place where the celestial blood glass fruit was hidden. There was a group of Yao gods here, making it a rather dangerous place. However, Zhao Feng and Xin Wuheng were well aware of the distribution of the Yao gods and even had a basic grasp of their cultivation, so it was easy to come up with a plan to deal with them. I'll draw them away. You take the chance to enter and seize the celestial blood glass fruit as well as the other precious resources. Zhao Feng's time intent had reached level 6, and when combined with his space intent, his ability to escape was even greater. The-ish. Zhao Feng charged into the building, and after killing several Yao gods, he immediately fled. In order to enrage the peak rank 9 Yao gods in the building, he even used his space transference eye to ambush them. Human, you're seeking death. The Yao gods almost turned out in full force as they pursued Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng was well aware of this situation through the little thieving cat. He had long since prepared for this and swiftly fled into the sensory tower. The sensory tower was perfectly preserved, and its defensive capabilities were outstanding. These Yao gods were helpless against it. Xian Wuheng used this chance to sneak into their base and obtain the celestial blood glass fruit as well as several time-intent cultivation resources. Once the Yao gods retreated, Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng went to the next target. This time, the two obtained a 9-lotus jade life flower. This resource contained powerful and pure divine power, and the number of lotus leaves on the flower could increase the divine power of an ancient god. And just now, the two obtained 3 9-lotus jade life flowers, all of which had 9 lotus leaves. With the little thieving cat's help, the two began to madly plunder the resources around the sensory tower. The majority of the resources in a range of 500,000 li were taken by the pair. The farther the range, the more blurry the sensory tower was, and the greater the danger. Of course, there were some particularly powerful Yao god groups or dangerous areas that the two of them could not enter. One day, the two of them were heading toward a certain location to investigate. Suddenly, a message and an image appeared in Zhao Feng's mind. Not good. The experts of Ancient Soul Hall are approaching. Zhao Feng immediately said to Xian Wuheng. What's the situation? Xian Wuheng asked. The information that the sensory tower could sense was extremely detailed. Besides ancient god JLC, there's also a half-step god lord. Chapter 1376. Why are there so many Heaven's Legacy race buildings here? Ancient god JLC was perplexed. He had always believed that the master of the ancestral legacy treasury was the giant god race. It now appeared that this dimension had originally been the territory of the Heaven's Legacy race, but it had later fallen into the hands of the giant god race. So that's how it is. No wonder this place hides the secret to becoming a divine master. Ancient god JLC finally understood. Since this dimension was originally the territory of the Heaven's Legacy race, ranked third among the 10,000 ancient races, it was understandable that there was an opportunity to become a god lord here. Where are they hiding? Ancient god Ice Jade scanned her surroundings as she rapidly advanced. Suddenly, the crystal ball in his hand flashed with a green light. On the other side, the crystal ball in ancient god Jaelsia's hand also reacted. They are hiding nearby. Ancient god Jaelsi sneered. Restrain your aura and approach them slowly. Then, kill them in one fell swoop. Ancient god Ice Jade messaged the others. From ancient god Jaelsia's defeat, ancient god Ice Jade could tell that Xian Wuheng's group had some ability. Moreover, they were in such a rush to find Xian Wuheng's group that they didn't rest for even a moment. As a result, ancient god Jaelsia's injuries were still not completely healed and he could only use 70% of his strength. Just wait for your deaths, Ancient god Jaelsi mentally laughed. Ancient god Ice Jade was even stronger than he was at his peak. Although he could only use 70% of his power, when working together with ancient god Ice Jade, they were unstoppable. Moreover, with ancient god Ice Jade being so cautious, Xian Wuheng, Zhao Feng, and the others would find it impossible to escape. On the other side, upon learning that the ancient Soul Hall group was approaching, Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng swiftly retreated. 2 half-step god lords. Xian Wuheng's face darkened. After the last battle, he might not even need to work together with Zhao Feng to temporarily contend against a half-step god lord. But against 2 half-step god lords, he would be powerless. Besides that, he was also wondering how the ancient Soul Hall group had managed to get here. Fortunately, I have the sensory pagoda. Zhao Feng felt a little lucky. If not for the sensory pagoda, they would have only noticed the ancient Soul Hall group when they arrived. Should we evacuate this place directly, or, Xian Wuheng asked for Zhao Feng's opinion. Enter the sensory tower. Zhao Feng answered directly. The ancient Soul Hall group clearly had a special tool that could sense their location. In terms of speed, they were far inferior to half-step god lords. If they retreated now, they would be caught sooner or later. In addition, entering the sensory tower was the little thieving cat's suggestion. Based on what the little thieving cat said, the sensory tower had been preserved rather well, and its defensive capabilities were outstanding. Even 2 half-step god lords would find it difficult to break through in a short time. Whoosh! Whoosh! Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng directly entered the sensory tower and went to the top floor. Ancient God Resplendence and Ancient God Sundermount were also present. Lord Wuheng, Ancient Soul Hall actually sent 2 half-step god lords. Ancient God Sundermount appeared rather helpless. The giant god race had never expected Ancient Soul Hall to come to the ancestral legacy treasury. Otherwise, they would have sent a half-step god lord to accompany Xian Wuheng. Meow, meow. The little thieving cat jumped onto a metal platform and gestured to indicate that there was no need to be too depressed. The little thieving cat said that it has already gained initial control over the sensory tower and has activated some of its defenses. Even if Ancient Soul Hall has 2 half-step god lords, they will still need some time to break through. Zhao Feng interpreted the little thieving cat's meaning. Really? The eyes of Ancient God Resplendence and Ancient God Sundermount flashed. Outside the sensory tower, the Ancient Soul Hall team slowly arrived. They actually sensed our arrival and hid in a Heaven's Legacy race building. Ancient God JLC was rather surprised. Earlier, they had been preparing to slowly approach the Ancient God Seal, but then they realized that it had suddenly moved, only stopping after reaching a certain place. This is impossible. Ancient God Ice Jade coldly said. They had made ample preparations before entering this place. For example, that crystal ball had been specially made by God Lord Stellar Aspect, a tool that could sense the existence of the Ancient God Seal. The giant God race team had entered this place completely unprepared, so how had they sensed their arrival? Humph, they're seeking death by hiding in this tower. Charge in and kill them all. The other 2 members of Ancient God Ice Jade's team were already getting impatient. Go in. Ancient God Ice Jade called out. If Xian Wuheng really had sensed them ahead of time, there was definitely an ambush in the tower. But even if there was an ambush, she was not afraid. In the face of absolute strength, these little tricks were useless. Whoosh! 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 The 5 members of Ancient Soul Hall flew toward the entrance of the Silver Tower. But at this moment, something unexpected occurred. Suddenly, many small holes appeared around the Silver Tower, shooting out rays of silver light. These countless silver rays of light instantly formed into a complicated array. Bzzzzz. The array activated, forming a silver barrier. This barrier was inscribed with faint Heaven's Legacy race characters and exuded an ancient and time-worn energy. The silver barrier engulfed the sensory tower while the 5 members of Ancient Soul Hall were kept out. A trifling array barrier. Break for me. Ancient God JLC thrust out a palm, creating a massive palm of black water that rumbled forward. Bzzzzz. The area where the silver barrier was struck by this attack caved in as if it was about to shatter. At this moment, the Heaven's Legacy race characters on the barrier suddenly flashed with a strange luster. A moment later, Ancient God JLC's attack began to weaken, its energy slowly draining away. What's going on? Ancient God JLC was alarmed. Everyone in the sensory tower rejoiced. Wonderful. This defensive barrier can stop the attacks of a half-step God Lord. Ancient God Sundermount called out in alarm. Not only that, Ancient God JLC's attack seems to have been converted into an energy source for the sensory tower. Zhao Feng's observation was the more detailed. Meow. The little thieving cat grinned, a very impressive expression on its face. Huh, brother cat, you truly are very impressive. Ancient God Sundermount heartily laughed. Ancient God Resplendence was also giggling at the little thieving cat's teasing. This thieving cat. Zhao Feng glanced at the image on the Enneagram and was alarmed. He remembered that before, the sensory tower could only sense everything within a radius of 5 million li. But now, the range was 8 million li. Moreover, the little thieving cat had actually said just now that its control over the sensory tower could still be improved. Everyone, we can't stay here forever. Let's use this time to increase our strength. Xin Wuheng suddenly said. Although they were safe for now, this was not a long-term plan. Strength was everything. I feel like I'm about to break through. Me too. Ancient God Resplendence and Ancient God Sundermount had serious expressions. Next, Zhao Feng and Xin Wuhan took out everything they had harvested in the last few days. These are celestial blood glass fruits. Ancient God Sundermount was extremely excited. Celestial blood glass fruits were extremely useful to the giant god race. Not only could they greatly increase one's vitality, they could also be fused into one's bloodline and have a chance of increasing the density of one's bloodline. There's also 9 lotus jade life flowers, and they all have 9 lotus leaves. Ancient God Resplendence was also elated. Meow. The little thieving cat jumped over and took a large portion. Zhao Feng rolled his eyes. The majority of the resources that the thieving cat had him and Xin Wuhan gather were useful to itself. But the little thieving cat had made a great contribution this time, so Zhao Feng didn't care, and the others had no objections. After the little thieving cat made its selection, the ones with the right to choose were undoubtedly Zhao Feng and Xin Wuhan. Zhao Feng first chose the 9 lotus jade life flower, and then he took some soul-related cultivation resources. Finally, he chose a few time intent cultivation resources. After making his selection, Zhao Feng entered the space-time robe dimension. My strength is already close to peak rank 8. If I take this 9 lotus jade life flower, I'll definitely be able to break through, and I might even become a rank 9 ancient god. Zhao Feng's divine power was already extremely formidable, and his soul intent had reached the level of a rank 9 ancient god. All he lacked was cultivation. After taking the 9 lotus jade life flower, Zhao Feng immediately sensed 9 clear streams of energy flowing through his meridians and slowly flowing into his dantian. The first 8 streams of energy flowed into his 8 divine stages and stabilized their foundations. This process was rather slow. The 9th stream of energy circled around the 8th divine stage. As long as Zhao Feng was willing, he could begin to form his divine stages, and he had around a 40% chance of breaking into rank 9. The first 8 streams of energy are enough to help me reach peak rank 8. If I continue to reach rank 9, the chances of success are too low. I might as well seal up the 9th stream for now. Zhao Feng suddenly had an idea. Once he reached peak rank 8, familiarized himself with his strength, and consolidated it, he could consume the medicinal energy of the 9th stream of energy. His chances of breaking into rank 9 would probably be even higher. With this thought in mind, Zhao Feng took away the divine power from the 8th divine stage and used ice and water intent to seal it up. Afterward, Zhao Feng used spacetime intent to wrap it up, effectively preventing the medicinal energy from leaking out. Other than Zhao Feng, the 3 members of the giant god race were also breaking through. As for the little thieving cat, it was exploring the sensory tower. Outside the sensory tower, one of the members of Ancient God Ice Jade's team happened to be skilled in arrays and had a certain understanding of Heaven's Legacy arrays. Thus, they waited outside to give this array master some time. In addition, they had come to this place with many fortuitous encounters. The members of Ancient Soul Hall were also in seclusion to increase their strength. This is fine as well. Once I completely recover my strength, I'll definitely make that brat Zhao Feng suffer a fate worse than death. Ancient God JLC used this time to heal the injuries to his soul origin. 10 days later, the array master left the vicinity of the sensory tower, a tired and dispirited look on his face. This old and useless one was unable to break that Heaven's Legacy array. The rank 9 ancient god said in shame. Wasting my time. Ancient God Ice Jade coldly snorted, a bone-chilling cold that almost caused the rank 9 ancient god's soul to lose consciousness. Since that's the case, I can only contact them. Ancient God Ice Jade took out a message token and sent a message to Yu Heng's team. "We've found Xi and Wu Heng's whereabouts, but they're hiding in a Heaven's Legacy race building. The building is protected by a Heaven's Legacy array, so we can't break in for now. Why didn't you contact me earlier?" On the other side, although Yu Heng's voice was flat, it was tinged with sinister coldness. Ancient God Ice Jade's group of 5 were taken aback. They had also guessed that Yu Heng was skilled in Heaven's Legacy secret arts, but without Yu Heng's presence, he would probably find it very difficult to break the array. At this moment, Yu Heng confidently said, "If I personally came, the Heaven's Legacy array would be nothing more than an empty shell. Although I won't be able to get here in time, breaking the array is very simple." Chapter 1377. Ancient God Destruction Flow. Yu Heng and the others slowly made their way through the gray-white mist, seemingly unable to reach the end. In this place, their senses and divine senses were suppressed to 1/20th of their original power. Moreover, the time suppression in this region was extremely powerful, making their progress extremely slow. Besides that, abnormally powerful Yao gods would occasionally charge out of the gray-white mist. Everyone was tense, not daring to be careless. This should be a newly formed forbidden zone. Yu Heng whispered. In the information he had, this place was only considered a moderately dangerous zone. With their strength, they were more than capable of traversing through it. But upon entering this place, they realized that the information they had received did not match up. At this moment, Yu Heng received a message. A hint of joy appeared on his face, but it was quickly replaced by coldness. They found the tracks of Xi and Wu Heng's group. Ancient God Destruction Flow asked in confusion. Correct. Yu Heng nodded. We probably won't be able to get there in time. Ancient God Destruction Flow was rather agitated. Ever since they entered this place, it had always been the other 2 teams that had found the tracks of Xi and Wu Heng's group. Coincidentally, every time they found the tracks of Xi and Wu Heng's group, Ancient God Destruction Flow's team was extremely far away. This time, they were even trapped in this dangerous forbidden zone. Within the sensory tower, the little thieving cat was lying on the black stone plate, its paws lightly sliding back and forth. Zhao Feng's group was in a special dimension, cultivating. Suddenly, a white ripple appeared in space, and Zhao Feng emerged. He had already used the 9 Lotus Jade Life Flower to smoothly break through to peak rank 8. Perhaps because of the space-time robe, Zhao Feng was the first to successfully advance. How is it? Zhao Feng immediately stepped forward and looked at the image on the Nonagon to observe the situation outside. Have they given up on breaking the array? Zhao Feng carefully observed Ancient God Jailsia's group. Other than Ancient God Ice Jade, the other 3 were in seclusion. But at this moment, Ancient God Ice Jade suddenly stood up. At the same time, the other members of Ancient Soul Hall also ended their seclusion. What's going on? Zhao Feng found this rather strange. The little thieving cat also glanced at the situation outside and revealed a puzzled expression. A moment later, powerful ripples of divine power began to surge in the air above Ancient God Ice Jade. A handsome and elegant young man who was nearly 1,000 feet tall was enveloped in a layer of gold and silver light. With a faint smile, he looked at the sensory tower in front of him. Spatial projection. Zhao Feng's expression darkened. The fact that the young man's projection could appear here meant that he was also in this space. This meant that there were other people from Ancient Soul Hall here. In addition, under such circumstances, this young man's projection appeared here. Could it be that he had a way to break the formation? Meow, meow. The little thieving cat's expression became abnormally solemn. Perception Tower. Tianji Secret Arts 132nd Secret Formation, Energy Absorbing Sky Stabilizing Formation. The moment Yu Heng's projection appeared, he immediately called out the names of the sensory tower and the array formation. The rank 9 array master in Ancient God Ice Jade's team immediately lowered his head. From these words, one could see the massive gap between him and Yu Heng. If you understood the Heaven's Legacy secret art, it wouldn't take long for you to easily break this array. Now, I can only tell you the weakness of this array. Yu Heng indifferently said. Ancient God Mu Yu knows a little about Heaven's Legacy arrays. Ancient God Ice Jade immediately said. The rank 9 Ancient God of Ancient Soul Hall somewhat embarrassedly stepped forward. Oh, okay. I'll tell you where the core of the energy-absorbing sky-stabilizing formation is. Yu Heng glanced at Ancient God Mu Yu and began to explain. Ancient God Mu Yu listened attentively, and then his eyes went wide as he stared in shock at Yu Heng. This person seemed to understand this array as if Yu Heng had been the one to lay it down. This one is stupid and can only understand 40% of it. After explaining, Ancient God Mu Yu said with an ashamed expression. Ancient God Ice Jade's team was taken aback. It doesn't matter. Break the array. Yu Heng indifferently said. Everyone, do as I say. We'll quickly break the array. Ancient God Mu Yu immediately said, his face brimming with confidence. It didn't take long before the 4 members of Ancient Soul Hall arrived around the sensory tower. Within the sensory tower, not good. Are they trying to break the array? Zhao Feng naturally understood what the Ancient Soul Hall members were trying to do. He gloomily stared at the projection. This youth had been indifferent the entire time, as if victory was already in his grasp. The other members of Ancient Soul Hall also began to break the array the moment this youth's projection appeared. This meant that this youth was confident in breaking the array. Swoosh! The 4 members of Ancient Soul Hall began to unleash powerful attacks around the essence-absorbing sky-stabilizing formation. The essence-absorbing sky-stabilizing formation buzzed, the tadpole characters on its surface rapidly flashing. But this time, the array did not absorb their attacks. Buzz! 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 The countless tadpole characters on the essence-absorbing sky-stabilizing formation began to move in reverse. Not good. The array is about to be broken. Zhao Feng's expression turned grim. Even if he didn't understand arrays, he could tell that the members of Ancient Soul Hall understood the trick and would soon be able to break the array. Meow. The little thieving cat helplessly gestured. It told Zhao Feng that all it could do now was expend a little more energy so that the array could last a little longer. Not long after, boom boom boom. Massive explosions came from the vicinity of the sensory tower. The silver array slowly began to vanish. Let's go. Ancient God Ice Jade rejoiced as she led her group toward the gate of the sensory tower. Slow down. Ancient God JLC, you stay here. Yu Heng suddenly said. Ancient God JLC's face froze. Now that the array was broken, they were just about to charge in and capture Zhao Feng's group. This was his chance to make up for his mistakes. But Yu Heng had suddenly stopped him. Why? Was Yu Heng still holding a grudge over what happened before? The fact that Xian Wuheng's group was able to activate the defensive array means that they already have basic control over the sensory tower. You stayed outside to prevent the people inside from escaping through the other exits. Yu Heng added. So that's how it is. Ancient God JLC breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, he was even more surprised at how Yu Heng understood the sensory tower so well. Broom! At this moment, the gate opened, and Ancient God Ice Jade's group smoothly entered. On the top floor of the sensory tower, the little thieving cat controlled the 9 metal platforms and switched the image to show Ancient God Ice Jade's group. The trap's there. Zhao Feng was taken aback. He remembered that there shouldn't have been any traps in the sensory tower. Meow. The little thieving cat immediately explained to Zhao Feng that this was its doing. The little thieving cat's control over the sensory tower was not limited to its sensory abilities and defensive arrays, but also some of the traps in the sensory tower. An important building like the sensory tower naturally couldn't just have a defensive array, so it was bound to be heavily guarded. If that's the case, it'll take them a long time to get here. Zhao Feng breathed a sigh of relief and prepared to enter the spacetime robe to increase his strength. He had only just broken into peak rank 8, so his spacetime intent and soul intent still had a lot of room for improvement. It was only a matter of time before Ancient God Ice Jade's group attacked. Until then, every bit of increase in strength would give him a better chance of fighting back. But just when Zhao Feng was about to enter the spacetime robe dimension, he suddenly realized that the ancient Soul Hall trio had not triggered any of the traps, and they had even successfully disarmed them and taken a few steps forward. It must be that person. Zhao Feng glanced once more at Yu Heng outside the sensory tower. In truth, it was just as Zhao Feng had predicted. Yu Heng had long ago guessed that the sensory tower was filled with traps, so his projection did not leave. Through ancient god Mu Yu's description, he told them how to disarm the traps so that the ancient Soul Hall trio could successfully disarm the array. Too formidable. Ancient god Mu Yu was inwardly shocked and filled with admiration for Yu Heng. Yu Heng was practically omniscient. He only needed to give a little description of the traps and arrays in this place, and Yu Heng would be able to deal with them. It didn't take long for them to pass through the first floor and reach the second floor of the sensory tower. He truly is incredible. Ancient God Ice Jade whispered. Without Yu Heng, even if they broke through the defensive array, they would have found it very difficult to reach the top of the tower. On the top floor of the sensory tower there's no time. Zhao Feng's expression darkened. The ancient Soul Hall trio had disarmed the traps far too quickly, giving him no time to enter the spacetime robe to cultivate. Buzz. Bzzz. At this moment, a heavy and powerful ancient bloodline energy appeared near Zhao Feng, causing the bloodline in Zhao Feng's body to tremble. Xin Wuheng's about to break through. Zhao Feng was a little happy. Xin Wuheng was currently the strongest person on their side. If he could make a breakthrough in his cultivation, everyone's hopes would increase by a bit. Meow. The little thieving cat immediately had Zhao Feng get onto the black stone plate. Zhao Feng instantly felt like he could see every part of the sensory tower, and his mind could smoothly roam the entire sensory tower. I understand. Zhao Feng understood the little thieving cat's goal in doing this. On the second floor of the sensory tower, the ancient Soul Hall trio was in the middle of disarming the traps. There's a celestial poison silkworm spirit array here. Once touched, the celestial poison silkworm spirit array will activate, and anyone below the ancient god level who is injured by the array is doomed to die. If an ordinary ancient god is injured, their divine power will rapidly drain away, and their soul consciousness will turn blurry. Yu Heng's voice resounded in ancient god Mu Yu's mind. Yu Heng then explained how to disarm the array. Ancient god Mu Yu immediately stepped forward and touched a certain part of the wall, preparing to begin disarming the array. But at this moment, an eye suddenly appeared behind ancient god Mu Yu. This eye was embedded in the air, a bright silver color that flickered with tribulation lightning flames. Careful! Ancient god Ice Jade immediately called out. But it was too late. Crack. A tribulation lightning flame immediately exploded against ancient god Mu Yu's soul. Ah! Caught off guard by this sneak attack, ancient god Mu Yu screamed, and in a daze, he accidentally took an extra step forward. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. In a flash, countless tiny red rays of light appeared in the air and began to rapidly revolve, exuding an inexplicable chill. Chapter 1378. In a flash, countless tiny red rays of light appeared in the air and began to rapidly revolve, exuding an inexplicable chill. In a moment of carelessness, ancient god Mu Yu's arm was injured by several red rays of light. Oh no! Ancient God Mu Yu regained consciousness and immediately began to retreat. He sensed a poison flowing through his body, seeping into his bones and soul. A moment later, his divine power began to rapidly drain away, and his soul became somewhat blurry. How is it, Ancient God Mu Yu? Ancient God Ice Jade and the other Ancient God immediately flew over. If something happened to Ancient God Mu Yu, it would be even more difficult for them to reach the top floor of the sensory tower. There's no danger to my life. Ancient God Mu Yu immediately seated himself cross-legged on the ground and began to circulate his divine power to suppress the poison. The celestial poison silkworm spirit array was only lethal to those below the ancient god level. It posed less of a threat to ancient gods, but the constant loss of divine power made it impossible for one's mind to focus. This is a god origin stone. It can rapidly recover divine power. When you need divine power, use it. Ancient God Ice Jade took out 2 sparkling white jade stones. Besides searching for the ancient god seal, they would also gather precious resources, and these god origin stones were one of their harvests. Ancient God Mu Yu took the god origin stones. The ancient soul race was a race that cultivated the soul Tao, so they had a rather strong resistance to poisons on the soul level. With these god origin stones, they could rapidly recover divine power at a crucial moment, so they were basically fine. Damn! That kid's space transference eye can actually see through all these buildings. In this dimension, divine sense was suppressed, and these high-level Heaven's Legacy race buildings all had the effect of blocking divine sense. Logically speaking, without a soul mark or divine sense that couldn't reach this place, the space transference eye should have been unable to descend. They control the sensory tower, so it's not strange for them to be able to do this. All of you have to be careful and be on guard at all times. If the space transference eye descends, immediately use a soul attack. Yu Heng's voice resounded in their minds. He won't get a second chance. Ancient God Ice Jade's expression chilled. As a member of the Soul Tao race, she had an extremely keen perception of soul energy and was skilled in soul attacks. Ancient God Ice Jade was confident that if Zhao Feng used the space transference eye again, he would never return. Continue advancing. Although the array has been activated, it won't be difficult. Yu Heng said again. The 3 from Ancient Soul Hall were taken aback, sensing an unfathomable aura from Yu Heng. On the top floor, Zhao Feng and the little thieving cat could see every movement of Ancient God Ice Jade's group through the nonagon screen. They're breaking the formation again. Zhao Feng's face darkened. He had a portion of the sensory tower's authority, so he was able to activate the space transference eye and activate the mechanism array. However, his actions did not have much of an effect. All he did was buy a little bit of time. Although the array had been activated, Ancient Soul Hall still had the means to break it. After some time, the Ancient Soul Hall trio broke the celestial poison silkworm spirit formation and continued deeper. Before long, they arrived at the 3rd floor. The second time, they will definitely be on guard. I'm afraid it won't be so easy to succeed. Zhao Feng did not act rashly. If he attacked, his chances of success were minuscule, and he would suffer the frenzied assault of the Ancient Soul Hall trio. After reaching the ancient god level, one would be able to touch the space transference eye and injure Zhao Feng's soul. But if Zhao Feng did not stop them, the Ancient Soul Hall trio would quickly reach the 6th floor, the top floor. Just as expected, the Ancient Soul Hall trio quickly broke through the 3rd floor and entered the 4th floor. Buzz! Bzzz! At this moment, a powerful bloodline energy emerged from not far from Zhao Feng. A moment later, Xin Wuheng appeared, his aura gradually receding. You broke through. Zhao Feng faintly smiled. Only Xin Wuheng could directly hold down a half-step godlord, and now that he had smoothly broken into peak rank 9, his strength had taken another step forward. What's the situation? Xin Wuheng asked, and then he turned to the nonagon screen, upon which he grimaced. Through the Nonagon, he could see everything. The Ancient Soul Hall team was about to attack. Ancient God JLC is standing guard outside the sensory tower, and there are other Ancient Soul Hall experts in this dimension. Zhao Feng reported the situation to Xian Wuheng. If that's the case, we have to leave this place. Xian Wuheng said after thinking for a few moments. If they stayed here for too long, once the other experts of Ancient Soul Hall arrived, they would find it even harder to escape. But escaping was not that simple. After all, Ancient Soul Hall was far faster than them. This meant that the prerequisite for escaping was that Ancient God Ice Jade and Ancient God JLC couldn't catch up. Right now, Ancient God Resplendence and Ancient God Sundermount are at a crucial moment in their breakthroughs. Xian Wuheng added. If they were interrupted during their breakthroughs, they might suffer a backlash that would make it even more difficult for them to break through in the future. Moreover, if the two of them succeeded in their breakthroughs, the group would get even stronger. Let's work together to stop them for a while. Zhao Feng immediately said. Ancient God Muyu, your understanding of traps and mechanisms has improved significantly. Ancient God Ice Jade faintly smiled. Everyone could sense that Ancient God Muyu's speed at breaking traps and arrays had increased. It's all thanks to you, Heng. Ancient God Muyu heartily laughed. As he dispelled the arrays, he became even more skilled. There were even times when he could see some clues without Yu Heng's reminder. Hurry and break the array. Only the last floor is left. Yu Heng coldly said. The three members of Ancient Soul Hall had already reached the 5th floor. They were about to reach the top floor. Yes. Ancient God Muyu was filled with admiration for Yu Heng and was willing to follow his orders. He walked at the very front and began to dispel the traps. Wait. Ancient God Ice Jade suddenly called out. A moment later, a figure appeared at the passage in front of them. Xian Wuheng. Ancient God Ice Jade sternly said. Xian Wuheng, obediently hand over the Ancient God seal. Ancient God Muyu stared at Xian Wuheng and said. Wishful thinking. Xian Wuheng coldly barked. The ish. He raised his right hand, circulating boundless divine power, and then fired off several sharp fingers. Several white beams of light imbued with formidable physical strength shot forward. Then just wait for your death. Ancient God Ice Jade's face chilled, and the icy snowflakes around her began to dance in the air. The icy snowflakes froze all life and energy in their path. Boom! Bang! But as Xian Wuheng's finger energy charged forward, part of the icy snowflakes in front of it were shattered. This kid's strength has increased. Ancient God Ice Jade was taken aback. In this casual exchange of blows, Xian Wuheng had actually gained the upper hand. Although Ancient God Ice Jade was more skilled in Soul Dao attacks, her divine power was still at the level of a half-step God Lord. This meant that Xian Wuheng's current strength had basically reached the level of a half-step God Lord. To possess such strength right after breaking into peak rank 9, Xian Wuheng truly deserved to be called Xian Wuheng. Ancient God Ice Jade's eyes focused, and an even colder intent energy surged out of her body to shatter Xian Wuheng's finger energy. But at this moment, that dreamy silver eye appeared in the sky above the Ancient Soul Hall trio. Water Lightning Illusion World. A ball of lightning appeared in that dreamy silver eye. This lightning energy rapidly absorbed the nearby ice and water energy, forming a massive net of water lightning that engulfed the Ancient Soul Hall trio. After unleashing this attack, Zhao Feng immediately withdrew his space transference eye. That brat again. Ancient God Ice Jade's face chilled. If not for Xian Wuheng's appearance, she would have been able to immediately counterattack Zhao Feng's space transference eye. Boom! Ancient God Ice Jade waved her hand, and a savage soul beast that looked like a shark charged forward. The shark soul beast unleashed powerful ice and water intent, creating a storm of ice and snow that charged at the lightning net above. After a few moments of entanglement, the lightning net was neutralized. "With your strength, you can't do anything to us," the other peak rank 8 ancient god coldly called out. Xin Wuheng ignored his words and stood straight on the spot, motionless. "No. They're interfering with our unraveling of the array," ancient god Mu Yu immediately said. "Focus on unraveling. Leave the rest to us," ancient god Ice Jade coldly said. As long as they could reach the top floor, everything would be over. But just when ancient god Mu Yu was prepared to step forward, Xin Wuheng circulated his bloodline power and unleashed several powerful finger bolts of energy. 1,000 Frozen Ice Mountain. Ancient god Ice Jade extended her hands and unleashed a storm of ice and snow. The ice snowflakes arrived in front of ancient god Mu Yu and instantly condensed into a mountain of ice and snow. Boom! Bang! Crash! Xin Wuheng's finger bolts instantly pierced through the mountain. Ancient god Ice Jade was taken aback. After Xin Wuheng used his bloodline power, she was actually at a disadvantage in a clash of physical attacks. Freeze! Ancient god Ice Jade called out, and the frigid icebound energy immediately strengthened, freezing Xin Wuheng's attack within it. This brat's strength. Ancient god Ice Jade's expression was gloomy. If Xin Wuheng was given enough time to mature, he would definitely become a major problem for ancient Soul Hall. On the other side, her soul beast and the peak rank 8 ancient god were focused on defending against Zhao Feng's sneak attack. Using this chance, ancient god Mu Yu began to undo the traps. "Soon, just wait for your deaths." Ancient god Mu Yu inwardly sneered. More than half of the 5th floor had been solved, and they were about to enter the 6th floor. As long as they could enter the 6th floor and temporarily hold down Zhao Feng's group, ancient god JLC would be able to swiftly reinforce them. When the time came, the 2 half-step god lords would be able to kill Zhao Feng and Xin Wuheng's group. Xin Wuheng, your giant god race will never be able to rise again. Ancient god Ice Jade coldly laughed. Although Xin Wuheng had enormous potential, as long as she could strangle him here, the giant god race would have no hope. The traps have all stopped working. Ancient god Mu Yu blurted out in alarm. A moment later, boom! Boom! 2 powerful ripples of bloodline energy came from the top floor of the sensory tower, causing the bloodlines of the 3 ancient soul race members to tremble. This energy, not good. Ancient god Ice Jade grimaced. Those 2 energies just now were the bloodline energies of the giant god race, and one of them was at rank 9. Chapter 1379. This energy, not good. Ancient god Ice Jade grimaced. Those 2 energies just now were the bloodline energies of the giant god race, and one of them was a rank 9 ancient god. Based on what she knew, Xin Wuheng was the only rank 9 ancient god of the giant god race that had come, but now there was one more. At this moment, Xin Wuheng charged out, brimming with the pressure of his bloodline and physical body. The traps here had already stopped operating, so Xin Wuheng was unimpeded. Whoosh! Whoosh! At the same time, 2 figures charged down from the top floor. "Lord Wuheng, we've come to help you." Ancient god Resplendence and ancient god Sundermount were elated. "Die!" Ancient god Resplendence bellowed, her 2 palms unleashing several sharp palms of wind. While choosing resources, ancient god Resplendence had obtained the 3rd 9 Lotus Jade Life Flower, allowing her to directly break into rank 9. The celestial blood glass fruit had also transformed her bloodline, greatly boosting her strength. In addition, the 9 Lotus Jade Life Flower had 9 lotus leaves, a resource meant for rank 9 ancient gods. Ancient god Resplendence had not only succeeded in breaking through a minor level, but her foundation was also extremely stable. As for ancient god Sundermount, he had also smoothly reached peak rank 8. In the future, he had an enormous chance of breaking into rank 9. How could this be? They. Ancient God Mu Yu and the other peak rank 8 were all stunned. Xin Wuheng wasn't the only one who had broken through to peak rank 9. The other 2 members of the giant god race had also broken through a minor level. You just said that we couldn't do anything to you. Now, let's see if those words are true. Xin Wuheng's expression was indifferent as 5 elements intent slowly began to circulate around him. 5 elements law-shattering palm. Xin Wuheng suddenly raised his hand. 5 different colored light circles revolved around his 5 fingers. Each of the light circles contained different profundities. He unleashed a majestic palm of 5-colored vortex energy. This palm of light was imbued with destructive energy, and wherever it passed, the ice and snow would be obliterated. Boom! Bang! The 5-colored vortex palm slammed into the Arctic ice peak, instantly destroying more than half of it. Then, it continued to crush forward. Dream on! Ancient God Ice Jade's face chilled as she waved her palms, sending out one ice storm after another that gathered around the mountain of ice in an attempt to block Xin Wuheng's attacks. Break! Xin Wuheng bellowed, and a wave of 5 elements profundity energy flowed into the 5-colored palm vortex. Boom! In a flash, the palm of 5-colored vortex shattered the ice mountain and rumbled toward ancient God Ice Jade. Although Xin Wuheng just broke into peak rank 9, his intent has probably already far surpassed that of an ordinary half-step god lord. Ancient God Ice Jade's expression darkened. In terms of divine power attacks, he was no longer Xin Wuheng's opponent. As a member of the ancient soul race, she naturally couldn't keep clashing with Xin Wuheng's divine power. Ancient God Ice Jade fiercely waved her hand, unleashing a storm of ice and snow that blocked the 5-colored palm vortex. Suddenly, a sharp white awl rushed out of the snowstorm. Soul-sealing awl. This white awl was suffused with dreadful ice energy. Before it even struck Xin Wuheng, his soul already felt a stabbing pain. But at this moment, a dreamy silver eye appeared above Xin Wuheng, flashing with countless tribulation lightning symbols. Crack! A cluster of tribulation lightning flames bombarded the icy white awl. Damn, that brat! Ancient God Ice Jade's eyes chilled in fury. If she used soul attacks to fight Xin Wuheng from a distance, she would have had a better chance of winning. But Xin Wuheng's team also had Zhao Feng, who was skilled in the Soul Dao. Back then, Ancient God JLC had been defeated by Xin Wuheng and Zhao Feng working together. Ancient God JLC had also said that Zhao Feng's eye bloodline techniques were extremely bizarre and that he had to be wary of them. Thump! Xin Wuheng immediately dashed out. Ancient God Ice Jade's soul attack was struck by Zhao Feng's tribulation lightning eye flame, and its power was greatly reduced, allowing Xin Wuheng to completely ignore it. Boom! 5 vortexes condensed in Xin Wuheng's palm as he thrust it forward. No, I can't fight him head-on. Ancient God Ice Jade's eyes turned as she immediately retreated. Xin Wuheng was a member of the giant god race. Once he got close, the consequences would be unthinkable. Wind traversing the 9 heavens. Indistinct winds surged around Xin Wuheng's body as he stepped forward, his body exuding a free and unrestrained intent energy that allowed him to rapidly traverse through space. In terms of fleeing speed, he might not be as fast as a half-step godlord, but in terms of movement techniques, no one present could compare to Xin Wuheng. On the other side, Ancient God Resplendence and Ancient God Sundermount were engaged in battle with the remaining 2 members of Ancient Soul Hall. Although the 2 of them had just broken through, their foundations were extremely firm and they were rather strong, so they could deal with them. Elder. Ancient God Mu Yu suddenly realized that Ancient God Ice Jade was retreating, avoiding Xin Wuheng, and he immediately called out in alarm. Damn! This scoundrel's movement technique is far too profound. Ancient God Ice Jade's expression darkened. The space was too narrow, and Xian Wuheng's profound movement technique made it impossible for her to put some distance between them. Moreover, there was still Zhao Feng in the shadows. If she used a soul attack, Zhao Feng would definitely stop her. Let's retreat from this place first. Ancient God Ice Jade immediately messaged the others. Okay. Ancient God Mu Yu and the other peak rank 8 nodded. This narrow space truly did limit the strength of the ancient soul race. Moreover, the sensory tower was under the control of the giant god race, so fighting in the enemy's territory was rather unsettling. Whoosh! 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 The 3 members of Ancient Soul Hall immediately began to retreat and prepare to flee. After them. Xian Wuheng bellowed. Right now, he definitely couldn't let these 3 people escape just like that. Their team's whereabouts had already been exposed, and the other members of Ancient Soul Hall in this dimension were assuredly on their way. Thus, they were still in danger and needed to flee for their lives. But if they fled now, Ancient God Ice Jade's group would pursue them relentlessly, so there was no point. This also meant that Ancient God Ice Jade and Ancient God JLC had to be unable to catch up before they could truly escape. This was an excellent opportunity. They could not let Ancient God Ice Jade go. Where do you think you're going? Ancient God Sundermount heartily laughed, feeling extremely refreshed. Previously, whenever they encountered a team from Ancient Soul Hall, they would immediately flee. But this time, it was Ancient Soul Hall that was fleeing. In terms of speed, your giant god race is far inferior to us. Ancient God Mu Yu coldly laughed. At this moment, is that so? A voice resounded in the soul dimension. Bzzzzz. A dreamy silver eye suddenly appeared in front of the Ancient Soul Hall trio. A dreamy mist began to spread, and then the eye transformed into a multicolored maze that exuded a powerful suction force. Careful! Ancient God Ice Jade immediately called out. But her warning was pointless. Ancient God Mu Yu and the peak rank 8 soul were immediately bound and sucked in by an irresistible energy. One could clearly see that part of their souls had already drifted away. Zhao Feng. Ancient God Ice Jade's face was cold and sinister as she clenched her teeth. Ancient God Ice Jade was a member of the Soul Dao race and a half-step God Lord, so she was extremely resistant to the gaze of Zhao Feng's God Eye. At this moment, she could attack the Space Transference Eye and stop Zhao Feng's God Eye gaze. But she had no chance to attack Zhao Feng. Giant God Finger. The Ish. Behind him, a huge finger light that seemed to look down on everything charged over with a shocking physical strength. Flower Annihilation Palm. Heavy Earth Divine Fist. Ancient God Resplendence and Ancient God Sundermount also used powerful combat skills, targeting Ancient God Ice Jade. Damn, these people. Ancient God Ice Jade appeared rather panicked. Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng's team worked together with exquisite coordination. It was clear that they had discussed this beforehand. Zhao Feng's God Eye gaze was only effective against rank 9 and peak rank 8s. It was ineffective against Ancient God Ice Jade. As for Xian Wuheng's team, they attacked Ancient God Ice Jade, ignoring the other 2. This way, the gaze of the God Eye would not be interrupted, and the 3 members of the giant god race could work together to deal with Ancient God Ice Jade, giving them the absolute advantage. Boom! The attacks of the 3 members of the giant god race rumbled toward Ancient God Ice Jade. Ancient God Ice Jade was already at a disadvantage in a contest of divine power with Xian Wuheng, so she had to deal with the divine power attacks of the 3 members of the giant god race. Ancient Soul Body Change. Just when the attacks of Xian Wuheng's team were about to land, Ancient God Ice Jade activated her bloodline's secret art. A moment later, her body turned pitch black and transparent as if she had become a soul. Although the attacks of ancient gods could penetrate the soul, they were still divine power attacks, so they did not deal much damage to the soul. And the ancient soul race had extremely formidable soul defenses. By using this secret art, they could block a fatal blow from an expert one minor level higher than them. Broom! The attacks of the three passed right through Ancient God Ice Jade's body. Using this chance, Ancient God Ice Jade waved her hand, sending a black shark into the air, accompanied by a storm of ice and snow. In a flash, Zhao Feng's soul consciousness and God's spiritual eye were both struck by a massive force. At the same time, his eye bloodline technique was interrupted. Run! Ancient God Ice Jade's face paled as she yelled. The secret art just now had only nullified the vast majority of the damage, but there was still a portion that had wounded her soul. After them, the three members of Giant God Hall immediately pursued. The sky was filled with fists of light, palm images, and finger blasts, all of them hurtling toward the ancient Soul Hall trio. Zhao Feng would occasionally use his space transference eye to use various eye bloodline techniques and illusion techniques. Their target was Ancient God Ice Jade. But the target was too small and too chaotic, making it difficult to control. The two ancient gods next to Ancient God Ice Jade were caught up in the shockwaves. No. The peak rank 8 ancient god was instantly obliterated by the shockwaves. Swoosh! Swoosh! Ancient God Ice Jade and Ancient God Mu Yu fled from the sensory tower in miserable states. Ancient God Ice Jade's face was pale, and her soul had sustained significant injuries. Meanwhile, Ancient God Mu Yu's body was covered in wounds, and he was missing an arm. Ancient God Ice Jade, how is it? Ancient God JLC immediately charged over. Although his tone was one of concern, he was inwardly mocking them. When Ancient God JLC was defeated, Ancient God Ice Jade had already criticized him to the point of no return. Relax. With the two of us here, they won't dare to come out, nor will they be able to escape. Ancient God JLC faintly smiled. His team had lost to Xian Wuheng's group, so Ancient God Ice Jade's defeat was extremely normal in his view. But if the two of them worked together, the situation would be completely different. Boom! But the moment Ancient God JLC finished speaking, several powerful energies emerged from the entrance of the sensory tower. The three members of the Giant God race charged out. Chapter 1380. Ancient God JLC blushed at the sudden appearance of the three members of the Giant God race. He had just said that the Giant God race wouldn't dare to come out, but a moment later, the Giant God race attacked. Good, you actually took the initiative to come out and die. Ancient God JLC coughed and then laughed. Ancient God Ice Jade hadn't expected for a member of the Giant God race to dare to charge out. Xian Wuheng stood straight where he was. He glanced at Yu Heng's projection and fell into deep thought. Ancient God Resplendence and Ancient God Sundermount solemnly stared at the two half-step God Lords of Ancient Soul Hall. If it weren't for Xian Wuheng's order, they wouldn't have dared to rush out. Sir, do you have any countermeasures? Ancient God Resplendence messaged. These were two half-step God Lords working together. The only person on their side who could fight against a half-step God Lord was Xian Wuheng. You don't have to worry about that. When the time comes, the two of you can work together and finish off that rank 9 ancient god as quickly as possible. Xian Wuheng's expression was calm. The two of us are dealing with a rank 9 ancient god. Then, the two Giant God race experts were taken aback. Lord Wuheng would definitely personally deal with one of the remaining 2 ancient gods, but what about the other half-step God Lord? Don't be careless. In the sky, Yu Heng's projection said calmly. These words made the 2 half-step God Lords feel rather disdainful. They had 2 half-step God Lords and 1 rank 9 ancient god. How could they not deal with the Giant God race? Xian Wuheng looked at Yu Heng again and his face darkened. On the surface, Ancient Soul Hall had the upper hand, but Yu Heng still warned them not to be careless. In addition, those two half-step god lords did not refute Yu Heng's words. From this, one could see that this person was no ordinary person. Since you're courting death, I'll send you to hell. Ancient God JLC savagely smiled as he flew forward, and a heavy pressure on the soul immediately engulfed the world. Go! Xian Wuhan growled. Boom! The white crystal light illuminated the horizon, and three giants suddenly appeared on the ground. Xian Wuhan's bloodline energy was the strongest, and it was able to dispel the pressure exuded by Ancient God JLC. Xiao! Xian Wuhan pointed out with a finger and destroyed Yu Heng's projection. Ancient God Ice Jade, work together and kill him first. Ancient God JLC immediately called out. Xian Wuhan, who was only at the 9th stage, was able to contend with him. Now that Xian Wuhan had reached the peak of rank 9, his strength could not be underestimated. Ancient God JLC had not fully recovered from his injuries, so he alone would find it very difficult to deal with Xian Wuhan. Ancient God JLC, let's fight again. Xian Wuhan bellowed and stepped out. Xiao! Ancient God Ice Jade also charged at Xian Wuhan. The Ancient God seal in his hand was her first target. Ancient God Ice Jade, your opponent is me. A soul voice suddenly resounded in the world. Then, a dreamy silver eye appeared in the sky. Ancient God Ice Jade was struck dumb by these words, and then she turned around and laughed. A peak rank 8 Ancient God was actually declaring war on a half-step God Lord. Such a thing was unheard of. Even Xian Wuhan couldn't do it. Fine, I'll deal with you first. Ancient God Ice Jade's expression gradually turned cold. What? Zhao Feng wants to fight against a half-step God Lord. Ancient God Resplendence and Ancient God Sundermount were both stunned in disbelief. In truth, Ancient God Ice Jade had been ganged up on in the sensory tower and had suffered rather severe injuries. The strength she could use right now was even weaker than Ancient God Jailcia's. It was precisely for this reason that Zhao Feng dared to make such a plan. Go! Ancient God Ice Jade waved her hand, sending a black shark wreathed in a storm of ice and snow at the Eye of Heaven. Earth-shaking Nova. The Eye of Heaven gathered a mass of chaotic energy and formed a huge ball of light. Bang! The two collided, and the black shark roared and unleashed immense energy to resist the damage of the earth-shaking nova. At the same time, a whirlpool of eye intent appeared nearby. A moment later, a crimson-black draconic flame shot out. Ancient Soul Race, Giant God Race. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon heartily laughed, the pitch-black dragon flame expanding until it seemed to form a black sun. Destructive flames of calamity engulfed the world. As the flames weakened, a pitch-black dragon 500 to 600 feet long slowly emerged. This energy. What a powerful bloodline. It's even stronger than the giant god races. Everyone's attention was drawn to the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon. Black Destruction Serpent Dragon. Destruction Dragon Race. Xian Wuhan was stunned. He naturally recognized this Black Destruction Serpent Dragon as the one from the Divine Illusion dimension. He just hadn't expected for this Black Destruction Serpent Dragon to be subdued by Zhao Feng. In addition, the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's bloodline had thickened, and its serpent dragon body was transforming into a true dragon. Destruction Dragon Race. Other than Xian Wuhan, everyone else immediately cried out in alarm. The Destruction Dragon Race was ranked 9th among the 10,000 ancient races. It was a terrifying race with destructive power. If it weren't for the fact that the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon was only a rank 8 ancient god, the members of Ancient Soul Hall would have long ago lost their will to fight. Destruction Dragon Breath. Without another word, the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon spat out a ball of black and red forbidden divine flames. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon had long ago become a rank 8 ancient god, and after entering this place, Zhao Feng had given it many resources. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon was only a step away from the peak of rank 8. Boom! A massive ball of black and red flames appeared in the air, a scarlet-black sun that burned and destroyed all. Although it was only rank 8, its powerful bloodline made the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's attacks abnormally powerful. Water Lightning Illusion Prison. The Eye of Heaven unleashed a binding and illusory eye bloodline technique. A dark blue barrier of water immediately engulfed Ancient God Ice Jade, and the power of the Water Lightning Illusion Dao surged forward. 10,000 Li of Ice Chill. Ancient God Ice Jade coldly snorted, and a bone-chilling cold began to spread out from the center of the fireball. A few moments later, both Xiao Feng's eye bloodline technique and the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's Destruction Dragon Breath were easily nullified. Half-step God Lords truly are extraordinary. Xiao Feng was extremely excited. A battle with a half-step God Lord was truly too hair-raising. Even though Ancient God Ice Jade was heavily injured and not at her peak state, she was still able to defeat Xiao Feng. The Black Shark obeyed Ancient God Ice Jade's order and once more attacked the Eye of Heaven. You can play with my pet for a bit. Xiao Feng sneered as he used Spatial Shift to send the little thieving cat out. Meow. The little thieving cat immediately extended 2 paws. In a flash of silver light and runes, a silver-white cat lunged forward. The silver cat's body gradually grew larger until it was even bigger than the black shark, and it directly pounced over. That's the ancient soul race's secret bloodline art, Soul-Devouring Strike. Ancient God Ice Jade stared in shock at the little thieving cat. But after using the Soul-Devouring Strike, the little thieving cat vanished. Oh no! Ancient God Ice Jade suddenly sensed something. Swish! The little thieving cat suddenly appeared near her. The little thieving cat extended its paws, its left paw unleashing a strange white halo while its right paw unleashed a gray ball of ice. The moment Ancient God Ice Jade was engulfed by the white halo, she immediately felt like all her strength was being suppressed, though this suppression wasn't very strong. At the same time, the gray ball of ice entered Ancient God Ice Jade's body. She hadn't sensed any coldness from the gray ball of ice before, but when it touched her, an extremely cold ice energy suddenly began to exude from her body. Even Ancient God Ice Jade, who cultivated ice intent, couldn't help but shiver. This is the power of the God Sealing race and Ice Deep race of the 10,000 ancient races. Ancient God Ice Jade called out in alarm. Just what sort of divine being was this little thieving cat? Meow. The little thieving cat made a face and then fled. Damn cat, where are you going? Ancient God Ice Jade's face was cold and sinister as she waved her hand, unleashing a mountain of ice. Although she was heavily injured and suppressed by the little thieving cat's secret art, Ancient God Ice Jade's attacks were still extremely powerful. God Eye Disintegration. The Eye of Heaven focused on Ancient God Ice Jade's soul-condensing attack and began to exude a dreamy luster. Whoosh! The power of the mountain of ice suddenly began to weaken, and it was getting more and more obvious. How could this be? Ancient God Ice Jade was alarmed. Today, these people had given her far too many surprises. With its power weakened, the little thieving cat was able to smoothly escape and return to the top floor of the sensory tower. At this moment, God Eye Duplication. The Eye of Heaven suddenly unleashed a dreamy mist. A mountain of ice flew out of the mist and howled toward Ancient God Ice Jade. Xiao Feng had made some progress in his cultivation, and Ancient God Ice Jade's technique was far inferior to Ancient God Jailsia's soul-annihilating roar, so duplicating it was much easier. This is the technique that Ancient God Jailsia talked about. Ancient God Ice Jade's eyes widened in shock. At this moment, the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon activated its Destruction Origin energy, unleashing a crimson-black dragon image that seethed with flames and swept toward Ancient God Ice Jade. Kaboom! Their attacks engulfed Ancient God Ice Jade's body. At the same time, Ancient God Resplendence and Ancient God Sundermount worked together to force Ancient God Mu Yu into fleeing. The two of them immediately went to help Xian Wuheng. In a flash, Ancient God JLC was in danger. He was just preparing to ask Ancient God Ice Jade for help when he realized that Ancient God Ice Jade was temporarily being held down by Zhao Feng. This was simply inconceivable. A half-step God Lord was actually being held down by a peak rank 8. Although Zhao Feng had many tricks up his sleeves and had the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon and the Little Thieving Cat as helpers, this shouldn't have been the case. Ancient God JLC, you're still going to lose this time. Xian Wuheng suddenly exerted strength, his every movement summoning boundless energy of the world. He and the other two members of the giant god race worked together, their fists and palms engulfing Ancient God JLC. How could this be? Ancient God JLC's face was somewhat pale. Two half-step god lords working together were actually no match for Xian Wuheng and Zhao Feng's group. Of course, the primary reason for this was that Zhao Feng had managed to hold down Ancient God Ice Jade. No one had expected this. On the top floor of the sensory tower, the Little Thieving Cat returned and once more took control of the sensory tower. The Little Thieving Cat's authority over the sensory tower was now at its highest level. The sensory tower's perception range was 10 million li. Suddenly, 3 white dots of light appeared at the edge of the sensory tower. Bzzzzz. The nonagon flashed with white light, and the image around those 3 dots of light began to expand. 2 members of Ancient Soul Hall and a handsome and scholarly youth were rapidly flying toward the sensory tower. Chapter 1381. At this moment, the 2 half-step god lords in the middle of battle had extremely nasty expressions. They had not expected for all the members of the giant god race to have made such a massive leap in strength. There were also other reasons, such as the sensory tower and Ancient God Ice Jade's injuries. At this moment, the 2 half-step god lords working together were being temporarily suppressed by the giant god race. If this continued, it would be the Ancient Soul Hall members who would be defeated. Suddenly, the 2 half-step god lords received a message, "We're coming." The messenger was none other than Yu Heng. Although Yu Heng was only a rank 9 ancient god, he had left an unfathomable impression in the minds of the members of Ancient Soul Hall. Given Yu Heng's age, cultivation, talent, and methods, becoming a god lord in the future was nothing difficult. For this reason, all the members of Ancient Soul Hall treated Yu Heng with extreme caution. Ancient God Ice Jade and Ancient God JLC remained unperturbed upon learning of this. Yu Heng's team could be said to be the strongest of the 3 teams. Now that Yu Heng and Ancient God Destruction Flow had arrived, even if Xian Wuheng borrowed the power of a god lord, he would be powerless to reverse the situation. What the two of them did not know was that Zhao Feng and the members of the giant god race already knew what was going on. They even knew how far Yu Heng was. Immediately run, or else we'll all be caught in one fell swoop. Zhao Feng messaged. However, it was not that easy to escape successfully. Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng began to discuss countermeasures. Okay. Let me force them back for now. Xian Wuheng said resolutely. Boom. He activated his bloodline, and his 10,000-foot body began to exude a crystalline white light, making him seem like a supreme god. Vast amounts of worldly energy gathered around his body, exuding an aura of supremacy. Not good. Xian Wuheng's activating his bloodline at full power. He must be using some forbidden secret art. Ancient God JLC immediately became wary. Relax. No matter what he's doing, once Yu Heng and Ancient God Destruction Flow arrive, everything will be over. Although Ancient God Ice Jade said this, she still warily retreated some distance. Giant God Heavenfall Palm. Xian Wuheng bellowed. The boundless energy he had accumulated gathered above his head. Gradually, an incomparably huge hand appeared in the sky. It covered the sky and the sun, making the entire land even darker. So powerful, ancient god JLC immediately felt a heavy pressure. If he was hit by that palm, he would definitely be heavily injured again, and his foundation would be greatly damaged. Rumble. The enormous white crystal hand descended from the sky. At that moment, a storm raged in all directions, and a terrifying pressure descended on the area directly below the palm. The moment this palm was unleashed, the giant god race and the black destruction serpent dragon retreated. Retreat for now. They will definitely die anyway. Ancient god Ice Jade immediately messaged. Then, the two of them retreated a certain distance. Right at this moment, the enormous white crystal palm came crashing down. Rumble. The ground instantly shattered, and a terrifying and profound power spread out in all directions. At the same time, a square gap suddenly appeared on the top floor of the sensory tower. Whoosh! Whoosh! Zhao Feng and the little thieving cat immediately leapt out. He and the giant god race members fled the area. Not good, they ran away. Ancient god Ice Jade called out in alarm. How could this be? Ancient god JLC was stunned. Logically speaking, the giant god race should have held the advantage, but they had suddenly retreated. Quick, chase them. Ancient god Ice Jade immediately called out. As half-step god lords, the two of them were far faster than members of the ancient soul race. At this moment, ancient god Destruction Flow and Yuheng arrived. He actually ran away. Ancient god Destruction Flow's face was frosty as he prepared to pursue. But suddenly, Yuheng's expression froze, and he shouted, "Don't chase, retreat." Yuheng's expression was rather excited. This was the first time the members of Ancient Soul Hall had seen Yuheng show such an expression. This, ancient god JLC didn't know what to do. Although Xin Wuheng and the others had escaped, he would definitely be able to catch up. This was a great opportunity for him to make amends, but at this time, Yuheng actually told them to stop chasing. Although they did not know why, they suddenly felt a sense of danger. At the same time, they did not want to disobey Yuheng's orders. Xiao! Xiao! Ancient god Ice Jade and ancient god JLC immediately flew toward Yuheng's location. The moment they began to retreat, they sensed an extremely powerful ripple of energy coming from the sensory tower. Oh no! The two grimaced, their sense of danger intensifying, and they immediately sped up. Rumble! The sensory tower shattered, engulfed in endless destructive divine light. Even a rank 9 ancient god would be obliterated by this forbidden energy. A massive hole appeared where the sensory tower once stood. Wah! Ancient god Ice Jade had fled rather late, so she was struck by some of the shockwaves and vomited blood in the air. So, it was because of this. Ancient god JLC's heart palpitated in fear. If not for Yuheng's timely warning, the two of them would already be dead. At this moment, ancient god Muyu returned, a look of shame on his face. He had been forced to flee by the giant god race duo. As expected of the Heaven's Legacy cat. Yuheng softly said. The majority of the buildings of the Heaven's Legacy race, especially the more important ones, had self-destruct sequences. This was to prevent secret information from falling into the hands of enemies. Yuheng's group of 3 went to Ancient God Ice Jade and Ancient God JLC aside and then shouted, "Let's go." But, where are they? Ancient God JLC hesitated. Xin Wuheng's obstruction and the self-destruction of the sensory tower had allowed Zhao Feng's group to escape the range of the crystal ball's perception. Since I've already seen them, I can roughly guess where they are. Yuheng calmly said. As soon as he said that, the rest of the people were relieved. Moreover, the 3 teams had gathered together. 3 half-step god lords, 2 rank 9 ancient gods, Ancient God Mu Yu and Yuheng, and 1 peak rank 8. If they found Xin Wuheng's group again, would they still be able to escape? Even Ancient God JLC, who had failed twice in a row, would firmly say that it was impossible. Ancient God JLC, you've lost again. Ancient God Destruction Flow couldn't help but jeer. Ancient God JLC could only ignore this situation. Whoosh, the Ancient Soul Hall team, led by Yu Heng, began to move out. Tell me the details of the battle. Yu Heng calmly said. Just now, his projection had been destroyed, so he had no idea about the battle at all. It's like this. Ancient God JLC began to explain. After leaving the sensory tower, Zhao Feng's group began to flee. Brother Cat, you truly are formidable. Ancient God Sundermount heartily laughed. But I don't know if the members of Ancient Soul Hall were killed in the explosion. Ancient God Resplendence smiled and said. They also found it difficult to determine this point. Even if one or two of them are killed, they still won't let us go. Our first priority is to get as far away from this place as possible. Zhao Feng suggested. Ancient Soul Hall had tools that could sense their location, making it easier to search for them. After flying for 3 days, the group finally began to slow down. On a certain day, they went underground to rest. Everyone began to heal their wounds and recover their energy as they chatted. What should we do now? Ancient God Sundermount asked. Let's find Ancient God Qingyun and see where he is. If possible, take him away. Perhaps there's a way to expel the thought body in his body. Xin Wuheng said after some thought. After all, Ancient God Qingyun was a member of the giant god race, and his strength could not be underestimated. If they brought him back, a God Lord expert might be able to restore Ancient God Qingyun. This idea was immediately approved by the others. Xin Wuheng took out a message token and sent a message, giving him a rough sense of the direction. This way. The group slightly changed directions and continued onward. After a while, the number of Heaven's Legacy race buildings has decreased. Ancient God Resplendence suddenly said. The others noticed this as well. The time intent suppression has gotten stronger. Zhao Feng immediately said. The strengthening of the time intent suppression was a gradual process, so normal people would find it very difficult to sense. Zhao Feng had the highest time intent of everyone present, at level 6, so he knew. It really is like this. Ancient God Sundermount was taken aback. Compared to the sensory tower's previous location, the time suppression here was indeed stronger. After traveling for a while, they saw very few Heaven's Legacy race buildings, at most a few ruins. Suddenly, an illusory ball of white light appeared in the ruins, exuding strange ripples of energy. What's that? The group couldn't help but get closer. The closer they got, the stronger the time intent suppression became. Once they got very close to that object of white light, they could finally see what it was. This was a massive gray-white stone slab. Written on it were characters that they didn't recognize. These characters glimmered with a faint white light and exuded invisible ripples of time intent. It's just a single character, but it contains such powerful time intent. Ancient God Resplendence was taken aback. Moreover, based on the other parts of this stone slab, one could determine that this was not a building of the Heaven's Legacy race. Xin Wuheng put the gray stone slab away in his interspatial dimension, and the group continued onward. After traveling for a while, the ground suddenly became barren, and the time intent suppression continued to strengthen. What's going on? There was so much life up ahead, but now it's barren. Ancient God Sundermount asked in surprise. Swish. Swish. At this moment, a soft and hurried sound came from the distance. Everyone's expression turned serious as they became vigilant. A little while later, a vast black fog flew over, and that confounding sound became even clearer. No, that's not a black fog. Zhao Feng was startled. It wasn't a black mass at all. Instead, it was countless black insects that looked the same. Each insect was only the size of an infant's fist, and they were densely packed together, numbering in the hundreds of millions. Wherever they went, all the heaven-earth yuan qi and vitality would be obliterated. What? Insects. The members of the giant god race were taken aback. As the black fog got closer, everyone could finally make out what it was. So many. Zhao Feng was stunned once more. The countless insects were like a sea of insects. Almost all of them had reached the true god level. True gods were like ants in the eyes of ancient gods. But when the number of ants reached a certain level, they could even topple an elephant. Could it be the 10th ranked race of the 10,000 ancient races? Ancient god Sundermount's face went slack. The locust moth race. Xin Wuheng's expression changed drastically. Chapter 1382. The locust moth race. Xin Wuheng's expression changed drastically. The locust moth race was the 10th ranked forbidden race of the 10,000 ancient races, the progenitor of all the insect races of the fan universe. It was known as the ancestor of all insects. In terms of individual fighting power, the locust moth race was far inferior to the 9th ranked destruction dragon race, but in terms of threat and terror, it definitely surpassed the destruction dragon race. There was only one true member of the locust moth race in this army of insects, the locust moth queen. As the ancestor of all insects, it had given birth to countless insects and descendants. These descendants possessed extremely diluted bloodlines. Although they were not true members of the locust moth race, they possessed various abilities. Some of their descendants could devour metal and easily topple a building complex. Others could swallow fire and ice, some were indestructible, some were so tiny that it was difficult to see with the naked eye, and some could devour souls. These descendants were called locust moth race, and they formed a terrifying insect army. There was definitely one member of the locust moth race in this sea of insects, the legendary locust moth queen. Swish! Swish! The countless locust moth queen formed a dreadful wave of insects that surged toward the giant god race team. These small insects were pitch black, and their carapaces were covered in strange patterns. Their mouths were round and covered in countless sharp teeth, making for an extremely disgusting and terrifying sight. Let's go. The locust moth race has an extreme hatred for all other races. Ancient god Resplendence immediately said. There was a rumor in the Chixing zone that a god lord had inadvertently offended the locust moth race while exploring ruins. Following that, the sea of insects chased after that divine master for 1,000 years before finally devouring him. Upon hearing this, everyone prepared to retreat. As expected, when the sea of insects looked at the crowd, they emitted an enormous killing intent. Buzz! Bzzz. At this moment, a soul ripple came from the center of the sea of insects. The sea of insects then split in two, with one group continuing forward while the other group charged at the giant god race team. Not good. We've been targeted. Ancient god Sundermount was alarmed. Swish! Swish! The dense and terrifying sea of insects seethed with killing intent as they charged at the giant god race group. Destruction flower palm. Ancient god Resplendence fiercely thrust out a palm. Boom! A swift wind palm quickly cut into the sea of insects, but it quickly dissipated. The cultivation of a single insect is not high, but when they join forces, they have the power to turn something rotten into something magical. Zhao Feng's left eye carefully observed the scene just now. The majority of these insects were rank 1 to rank 4 true gods, but they were able to block the attacks of rank 9 ancient gods, who were several levels higher than them. This was because these insects had strong defenses and were small in size, so they suffered less damage. Ancient god Resplendence's palm had been withstood by millions of insects, so they were able to block it. Even if there were casualties, they were minuscule compared to the sea of insects. The top 10 primeval geniuses are indeed not simple. Zhao Feng sighed in his heart. Meow, meow. At this time, the little thieving cat jumped out of the interspatial dimension and meowed at the sea of insects. At the same time, its aura changed, and the mixed aura became single. If one carefully sensed it, they would discover that the bloodline aura the little thieving cat was giving off was extremely similar to the aura of the insect sea. Chi-chi. Chi-chi. In a flash, the insect sea attacking the giant god race group froze, confused expressions on their faces. On the other side, the sea of insects that was rushing into the distance also stopped. Not long after, a slightly larger insect with purplish-golden patterns on its back appeared among the swarm of insects. The moment the violet-gold insect appeared, even the powerful members of the giant god race felt their bloodlines tremble as they sensed an ancient and boundless pressure. It was as if the tiny queen worm was 100,000 mountains from the ancient times. Zhao Feng also sensed a ripple in his god's spiritual eye's origin, and he couldn't help but be surprised. Insect Mother. The giant god race members were alarmed. Only this violet gold insect could be considered a member of the locust's race. All the other insects here were its descendants and slaves. Meow. The little thieving cat began to communicate with the insect mother. The little thieving cat was explaining that they were not enemies and had no ill intentions. It was also asking why the insect mother was in such a hurry to get away. When the insect seed discovered Zhao Feng's group, it should have attacked as a whole, but it had split into two groups, with the insect mother leading the other group in another direction. There had to be some other reason for this. Swish. The insect mother gave off a low and grating sound. The insect seed that had been pursuing Zhao Feng's group immediately retreated. The dreadful insect seed then flew off into the distance. This. Brother Cat, what did you do just now that the insect seed didn't attack us? Ancient God Sundermount had a look of shock and reverence for the little thieving cat. Meow. The little thieving cat gestured to the group, indicating that the insect sea was heading toward a treasure ground in this dimension. As soon as he said this, everyone's expression changed. With the strength of this insect sea, even two half-step godlords would be forced to flee. How could a treasure ground that could tempt the sea of insects to be so tempted be ordinary? However, these insects were clearly hostile to them. If they followed, they might end up provoking them. In addition, if they followed, wouldn't they be competing with the insect sea for treasure? Fighting against such a terrifying insect sea was simply too irrational. Moreover, they would be endlessly pursued afterward. Meow. The little thieving cat gestured to the group. It meant that the insect mother didn't have a very high cultivation, around peak rank 9. With Xian Wuheng's cultivation and the vision of Zhao Feng's god spiritual eye, even if they followed, they wouldn't be noticed. When the time came, they could act according to the situation. After saying this, the little thieving cat sent a message to Zhao Feng. The general meaning was that if Zhao Feng didn't go, he would regret it. Then let's go take a look. If it's too dangerous, we'll retreat. Zhao Feng suggested. After a period of discussion, the members of the giant god race also agreed. All of them wanted to see just what kind of place the Stemborer army was treating with such importance, such a precious treasure. Whoosh, just like this, the group followed the traces left behind by the insect sea. A few moments later, they saw the insect sea. But all of them maintained a certain distance from the insect sea, so they weren't discovered. The suppression of time intent has suddenly become extremely strong. Ancient God Sundermount said. The other members of the group also noticed this and nodded. This sudden change in environment indicated that there truly was a secret up ahead. Not long after, they've stopped. Zhao Feng suddenly said. Even with Zhao Feng's current vision, he could only see the insect sea. As for what lay ahead of the insect sea, he had no idea. Let's go somewhere else. This way, we can get close to the treasure ground without being noticed by the insect sea. Zhao Feng suggested to the group. Following that, the group of people began to fly to the left and slowly approached. It didn't take long before a massive and damaged building appeared before them. This was a grey castle covered in profound carvings. The ancient castle exuded a vicissitude of time, and it exuded time-intent energy. This isn't a building of the Heaven's Legacy race. Everyone was taken aback. Almost all the buildings they had seen before had been built by the Heaven's Legacy race, so they were extremely surprised to see another style of building for the first time. Now that they thought about it, they had seen many ruins on the way, but none of them had been built by the Heaven's Legacy race. They were rather similar to this grey castle. Although this castle isn't built by the Heaven's Legacy race, it's still very unusual. It seems to be built in the style of another powerful race. Xin Wuheng sternly said. In the ancient era, many abnormally powerful races had their own culture and architectural styles. As they got a few more steps closer, they realized that the grey castle was covered in countless resources, the majority of which were time-intent cultivation resources. As for the precious materials on the ancient grey castle, they were even more precious and aged. They even discovered 3 stalks of moonlight sky bamboo. Besides that, there were also several other treasures on the same level as the moonlight sky bamboo. So many treasures of heaven and earth. Ancient God Resplendence and Ancient God Sundermount's eyes shone. The resources here added together were even more valuable than all the resources they had taken before. There's no way such a treasure ground hasn't been occupied. Zhao Feng sternly said. In this dimension, any place rich in yuan qi or covered in resources would have been occupied by a race or abnormally powerful Yao God. As for the owner of that strange ancient castle, he was definitely in existence that even the insect sea was extremely fearful of. When he thought of this, Zhao Feng became extremely curious as to what was inside this ancient castle. The others were also extremely curious. Swish! Swish! The insect sea in front of the ancient castle suddenly let out countless shrill noises, and then they swarmed toward the ancient castle. Bzzzzz. At this moment, a layer of white light rippled out from the ancient castle and engulfed the entire world. In a flash, even the wind and grass in the world slowed down. The insect sea's assault also slowed. On the other side, Zhao Feng's group sensed a powerful time-intent energy. Just who is it that is emitting this power of time? Ancient God Resplendence whispered. They were still unable to determine the level of this time ultimacy energy. Close to level 9. Zhao Feng whispered. Time intent was one of the most difficult intents to cultivate. But the time intent exuded at this moment had reached level 9. At this moment, several white beams of light shot out of the ancient castle. The-ish. A streak of light shot out. Everyone present, including the countless insects, stared at the ball of light that was surrounded by the mysterious light. Zhao Feng immediately used his god's spiritual eye to peer through it and see what was inside the ball of light. That's a fragment. Zhao Feng's expression froze. He had thought that it was a powerful race or some strange ancient Yao god, but he had never imagined that it was a fragment of a mirror. But just one fragment was enough to make the entire insect sea stand on guard. Just what was the origin of this fragment? You've come again, but this time, you will return empty-handed. An elderly spacetime voice came from the fragment. Swish! Swish! The insect sea screeched. In a flash, all the insects received the order from the insect mother and began to take up their formation. It didn't take long for them to form a massive circular object that looked like an insect nest. Buzz! Bzzz! All the insects worked together to resist the time energy exuded by the fragment. The insect nest suddenly began to roll forward, twice as fast as before, and it was about to reach the ancient castle. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.